Chapter 36:12. I'll try to reach the edge of a breakthrough in these 3 days. Zhuowen took a deep breath and took out several chaos crystals from his great world. He could feel that he was still some distance away from the fourth blight. If he wanted to reach the edge of a breakthrough earlier, he could only rely on chaos crystals. 3 days passed quickly. 3 pure ones brought Lian Meng and the little Taoist child out of the side hall. 3 pure one's face was still pale, and his body looked very weak. There were still terrifying sword scars left by the divine soul sword intent in his divine soul. Those sword scars were too strong and stubborn. 3 pure ones estimated that with his current divine soul power, it would take him at least 10 years to completely remove the sword scars. If he had the assistance of a divine soul recovery pill, the time would be greatly shortened. Lian Ming's beautiful eyes fell on the main hall's door. A trace of hesitation and fear appeared in her eyes. Lian Ming, go knock on the door. 3 pure ones said softly. Lian Ming bit her teeth and nodded. She came to the front of the hall and knocked. Zhuowen, the 3 days are up. Creak. The door slowly opened. The person who appeared in front of Lian Ming was not Zhuowen, but the green-furred corpse. Where's Zhuowen? Lian Ming could not help but ask doubtfully when she saw that Zhuowen was not behind the green-furred corpse. My master is still in seclusion. He still needs some time. I'll go with you first. The green-furred corpse stepped out of the hall and gently closed the door. Then he strode toward 3 pure ones. Lian Ming frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "What's Zhuowen doing inside? Is he cramming at the last minute? Why is he still in seclusion in 3 days? Could it be that he's running away because he's scared?" The green-furred corpse sneered. My master is not like your master. Even if 3 pure ones ran away, he would not run away. Lian Ming's beautiful eyes were filled with anger. However, 3 pure ones stopped her. Let's go. 3 pure ones ignored the green-furred corpse and led Lian Ming and the little Taoist child toward Mount 3 pure ones. The green-furred corpse sneered and lazily followed behind 3 pure ones. However, the green-haired mummy was a little nervous. He had also heard of Bing Hui. It was said that he was an elite from the outer realm, an existence at the heaven-breaking realm. Although he knew that Zhuowen was very strong, he wasn't sure if Zhuowen could win against Bing Hui. Thinking about how miserable Zhuowen's fate would be if he died at Bing Hui's hands, his heart was filled with hesitation and fear. When 3 Purities walked down 3 Purities Mountain, he found that 3 Purities Street was already filled with cultivators. These were all human cultivators from 3 Purities Street. They were basically gathered at the foot of 3 Purities Mountain, waiting for the 3 Purities. All the cultivators on 3 Clear Street had heard about Bing Hui. They knew that the powerful cultivator from the outer realm, Bing Hui, would personally come to 3 Clear Street today. Back then, this news had caused waves of panic in 3 Clear Street. The reason why they had gathered at the base of Mount 3 Purities was because they had placed all of their hopes on Taoist 3 Purities. After all, Taoist 3 Purities was the most powerful person in 3 Purities Street, and in fact, in the entire Heavenspan realm. 3 Purities, you've come down. I received news that Bing Hui has successfully arrived. He's now in the Shaman Tower on Chaos Street. I think he'll come to 3 Clear Street soon. At this moment, a muscular middle-aged man in a black robe arrived in front of 3 Purities. If Zhuowen were present, he wouldn't be unfamiliar with this black-robed man's aura. It was the Black King who had brought him to the Slaughter Realm. After saying this, the Black King looked doubtfully at the green-haired mummy behind 3 Purities. His eyes were filled with dread. He could feel that the green-haired mummy's aura was extremely strong. It wasn't inferior to his at all. It should also be an elite at the peak of the fourth blight. 3 Purities nodded and coughed. His face was still pale. The Black King saw that 3 Purities wasn't in a good state. He frowned and said, "You are injured?" 3 Purities said in a low voice, "Something happened at 3 Purities Palace. Don't tell anyone about this. If Bing Hui comes, I'll deal with him." The Black King's frown deepened. He looked deeply at 3 Purities. He could clearly see that the 3 pure ones had been injured by someone, and this caused his heart to become unsettled. Three Purities was an elite at the peak of the fifth blight. Who could hurt him? Okay. Although he was puzzled, the Black King still agreed. Boom! At this moment, a shocking explosion came from the end of Three Purities Street that connected to the chaotic cosmos. The terrifying energy spread, and the entire Three Purities Street trembled violently. Three Purities, Lord Bing Hui is here in person. Get over here and greet him. An arrogant voice resounded through the entire Three Purities Street. It was deafening. Wu Taiji. Three Purities' eyes were dark. He recognized the owner of the voice. Let's go. Three Purities took a deep breath and led the way to the end of Three Purities Street. Lian Meng, the little Taoist child, and the Black King followed closely behind, followed by the cultivators of Three Purities Street. Among this group of cultivators, Zhuan was more familiar with Rao Tianhan, Mei Jinwen, Tang Taihong, Jiang Ruisi, Du Huacan, and others. However, their eyes were filled with worry. At this moment, most of the areas at the end of Three Purities Street were in ruins. The foreign race army swarmed in, led by a pale-faced man in ice armor. He was Bing Hui. Wu Taiji followed closely behind Bing Hui with a flattering smile. In addition, there were three foreign race experts who stood in a similar position as Wu Taiji. They followed behind Bing Hui. The auras of these three foreign race experts were extremely powerful. They were not weaker than the 7 patriarchs who had encircled Zhuan the second time. These three people were also patriarch-level experts in the Desolate Street. They were the patriarchs of the Moon Wolf race, the Nine-Tailed Fox race, and the Giant Turtle race. These three races had always maintained a neutral attitude towards Zhuan. Back then, when Wu Taiji had encircled Zhuan twice, these three races basically did not make a move. However, now that Bing Hui had personally come, they knew that they could not continue to maintain a neutral attitude. Otherwise, they would not give Bing Hui face. When the time came, he could crush any of them and their families with a single finger. Bing Hui clasped his hands behind his back and raised his chin. He looked around Three Purities Street with a trace of killing intent surging in his eyes. Back then, he had chased Zhuan all the way to the sky-accessing secret land. He had thought that he could get rid of the ant quickly and neatly, but he did not expect that the ant was so cunning that he had managed to hide from his eyes. However, Bing Hui was very confident that he would definitely kill the ant this time. Last time, he had made a great contribution when he brought Sakyamuni back. The Ice Demon King not only helped him recover his cultivation, but also gave him an opportunity to improve his cultivation. This time, he had come to the mortal world under the request of his junior brother, Sakyamuni, to hide it from the Ice Demon King. The treasure that suppressed his cultivation was also requested by Sakyamuni from the Ice Demon King. It had to be said that the Ice Demon King really loved Sakyamuni. He would grant Sakyamuni any request. Chapter 36:13. Are you sure Zhuan is on Sanqing Street? Bing Hui asked Wu Taiji, looking arrogantly at Sanqing Street with his hands behind his back. Wu Taiji lowered his head and came to Bing Hui's side. He said respectfully, absolutely. My men saw Zhuan enter Sanqing Street with their own eyes, and he hasn't come out since. Bing Hui nodded and walked slowly toward the inside of Sanqing Street. Wu Taiji and the alien army followed closely behind. Taoist Three Purities, manager of Sanqing Street, greets Lord Bing Hui. Bing Hui hadn't gone far when a vigorous voice came from the front of the street. Just a moment later, they saw Taoist Three Purities leading a group of cultivators from the Three Purities Street towards them. Three Purities took the lead and kept a distance from Bing Hui. He cupped his hands and bowed to Bing Hui. Bing Hui said indifferently, Three Purities, do you know your crime? Three Purities' heart skipped a beat. He lowered his head and said, Lord Bing Hui, I don't know what you mean. Bang! As soon as Three Purities finished speaking, a wave of power swept over. Then the ground under their feet cracked. A huge ice crystal hand broke out of the ground and grabbed Three Purities, holding him in the air. Puffed. Three Purities spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with shock and anger. He didn't expect Bing Hui to attack him without saying anything. Master, Lian Ming and the little Taoist boy's expressions changed drastically. They hurried toward the ice hand. However, the ice hand emitted a terrifying chill. As soon as they got close, they were attacked by the chill. Their hands and feet were frozen into ice. Fortunately, the Black King reacted in time and pulled them out. His expression was grave. Although he was at the peak of the fourth blight, he still felt the aura of death from the ice hand. He knew very well that if he was caught by the ice hand, he would end up worse than 3 purities. The cultivators of Sanqing Street who followed them were all shocked. They couldn't help but take a few steps back. Their eyes were filled with horror. 3 purities, the strongest in the heaven-accessing realm, had been defeated by this person with one hand. He was too strong. Who else in Sanqing Street could fight against him? On the other hand, Wu Taiji and the others were even more in awe. Interesting. You're actually injured. No wonder he couldn't even withstand a single blow. Bing Hui glanced at the 3 pure ones. He was surprised, but he soon calmed down and continued. I heard that Zhuowen is in your 3 pure one street. Give me that Zhuowen, and I won't trouble your 3 pure one street. As soon as these words came out, the cultivators of the entire 3 clear street were in an uproar. This person barged into our Sanqing Street because of that Zhuowen? Damn it, was this Zhuowen a troublemaker? How dare they bring disaster to the streets of the 3 pure ones? What about Zhuowen? It's all his fault. Why should we be the scapegoat? Hurry up and get out here. Many cultivators on 3 Purity Street began to jeer. Filled with righteous indignation, they asked Zhuowen to come out and stop harming their street. Rao Tianhan, Mei Jinwen, and Tang Taihong, who were mixed in the crowd, frowned. They looked at each other and remained silent. The 3 of them knew that Zhuowen had gone to the 3 Pure One's palace. However, they owed Zhuowen a favor, so they couldn't expose Zhuowen now. I know where that Zhuowen is. I know. Suddenly, someone in the crowd spoke. All of a sudden, the clamor of the cultivators on 3 Purity Street quieted down. Their gazes landed on the cultivator who had spoken. Even Bing Hui was sizing up the person who spoke with great interest. It was a middle-aged man with dark eyes. His aura wasn't strong, and he was probably only at the first blight. At this moment, being stared at by everyone, his face was slightly pale, and he didn't know what to say. Come here. Bing Hui waved at the man and said indifferently. The middle-aged man's face was pale. He hesitated, but in the end he walked towards Bing Hui. Where is that Zhuowen? Bing Hui asked after the middle-aged man walked closer. He's on 3 Pure One's mountain. I saw Rao Tianhan, Mei Jinwen, and Tang Taihong return with that Zhuowen at the entrance of 3 Pure One Street. Later, he followed Taoist 3 Pure Ones to 3 Pure One's mountain. The middle-aged man trembled. Rao Tianhan and the other 2 turned pale. They cursed in their hearts and began to secretly retreat, planning to leave. They knew that if this person exposed them, Bing Hui would definitely come looking for them. Oh, 3 Pure Ones, you old bastard. You're really going against me. You knew that I was looking for that Zhuowen, but not only did you not report it, you even brought him to 3 Pure One's mountain. Do you take me for a fool? Bing Hui looked at 3 Pure Ones coldly and clenched his fist. 3 Pure Ones immediately let out a miserable howl as his body was drenched in blood. After the battle with Zhuowen, his injuries were too severe. He couldn't use his strength at all. He was a soft persimmon that Bing Hui could pinch however he wanted. And what about Rao Tianhan, Mei Jinwen, and Tang Taihong? How dare they come into contact with that Zhuowen? They're courting death. As Bing Hui spoke, his gaze fell on the people of 3 Pure One Street. They're here. Rao Tianhan, Mei Jinwen, and Tang Taihong are all here. Someone in the crowd suddenly spoke. Soon after, 3 streaks of light shot out from the crowd and flew into the distance. However, before the 3 streaks of light could go far, another ice hand broke out of the ground and accurately grabbed the 3 streaks of light, pinching them in its palm. When the hand of ice loosened, there were 3 more ice sculptures in its palm. Upon closer inspection, they were the faces of Rao Tianhan, Mate Jinwan and Tang Taion. Wu Taiji, come with me to Three Pure Ones Mountain. Bing Hui slowly walked forward after speaking. His target was Three Pure Ones Mountain in the distance. Wherever Bing Hui passed, the cultivators of Three Pure One Street automatically opened a path for him. They all looked at Bing Hui in horror. Wu Taiji and the three ancestors of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, the Moon Wolf clan, and the Giant Turtle clan followed closely behind. Escort all the cultivators of Three Pure One Street to Three Pure Ones Mountain. Wait for Lord Bing Hui to deal with them later. Wu Taiji transmitted his voice to a general of the shaman tribe. After Bing Hui and the others walked out of the area of Three Pure One Street, the latter commanded the foreign tribe army to follow behind them. The Black King silently protected Lian Meng and the little Taoist child. He just followed behind silently. Both Bing Hui and Wu Taiji had noticed him long ago. They just hadn't made a move. The Black King didn't dare to escape. If he did, Wu Taiji would take him down first without Bing Hui's help. The Black King originally planned to release Three Pure Ones from the Ice Hand. However, he had tried before. With his strength, he couldn't break the Ice Hand at all. He could only watch as Three Pure Ones were imprisoned by the Ice Hand. At the foot of the mountain, the green-furred corpse naturally saw Bing Hui and the others. Chapter 36:14. My lord, do you need me to take care of that guy for you? Wu Taiji asked Bing Hui when he saw the green-haired mummy running towards Sanqing Mountain. He's just an ant. As long as he doesn't escape Sanqing Street, his fate is sealed. And, judging by his panicked look, he's probably going to inform Zhuowen. Bing Hui's lips curled into a sinister smile as he spoke carelessly. Wu Taiji nodded and didn't mention it again. Instead, he followed Bing Hui like a servant. The green-haired mummy soon arrived at Sanqing Palace and immediately ran towards the main hall. However, just as he was about to open the door to the main hall, a terrifying energy suddenly came from within. Crack! The door of the palace was directly shattered. The green-furred corpse was caught off guard and was struck by the force. It was sent flying and smashed into the ground. The mummy coughed dryly and struggled to get up. He looked at the door. Then, a figure slowly walked out from the broken door. This figure was none other than Zhuowen. His eyes were bright and full of spirit, like two small suns. They emitted a scorching light that was difficult to look at directly. Zhuowen looked at the green-haired mummy on the ground and said flatly, Bing Hui is here. The mummy hurriedly got up and walked to Zhuowen's side. He said with some fear, Yes, that Bing Hui is very strong. Master, I think it's best for us to leave now. Leave? Why should we leave? Zhuowen's gaze was gloomy and cold as he flicked his sleeve. Instantly, numerous formation flags shot out. These formation flags landed at the edge of the Three Purities Palace and soon disappeared. A faint ripple of formation spread out. Zhuowen wiped away the formation ripple and walked to the mountain gate. He looked down at Bing Hui's group slowly walking up the stairs. Down below, he saw not only the outsider army, but also the human cultivators who were surrounded by the outsider army. You're Zhuowen? Bing Hui asked calmly when he looked up and saw a young man standing in front of the mountain gate. Did Sakyamuni send you here? Zhuowen didn't answer Bing Hui's question. Instead, he asked a question. What do you think? Bing Hui sneered and said to Wu Taiji beside him. You go and capture him. A mere peak third blight, and I think you can easily take him down. Wu Taiji grinned and said, Don't worry, Your Excellency. Taking down this bastard is nothing difficult for me. As he spoke, Wu Taiji stepped forward step by step. His speed became faster and faster as he rushed towards the mountain gate. As he approached the mountain gate, Wu Taiji's aura became more and more terrifying. His body also gradually became larger, as if some kind of ferocious beast was awakening in his body. Wu Taiji made his move. He was at the late stage of the fifth blight, and his strength was second only to Sir Three Pure Ones. This Zhuowen is really finished. Sigh. This Zhuowen is really a scourge. He has harmed our entire Sanqing Street. He clearly knows that he has offended Lord Bing Hui. yet he still returned to 3 Clear Street. This is clearly a trap. It would be best if Wu Taiji killed him in one move. At the foot of Sanqing Mountain, a large group of human cultivators also saw Wu Taiji make his move. They discussed spiritedly, and surprisingly, all wanted Zhuowen to be killed quickly. Sigh, I can't help Zhuowen even if I want to. The Black King sighed softly. He knew that Zhuowen had no chance of surviving under Wu Taiji's hands. Uncle Black King, Zhuowen isn't as weak as you think. The unlucky one this time should be Wu Taiji. Lian Meng suddenly spoke, her beautiful eyes shining brightly. Oh, the Black King bitterly smiled and shook his head. He felt that Lian Meng was dreaming. At this moment, Wu Taiji's aura had risen to the extreme, and he was already close to Zhuowen. He saw that Zhuowen was still standing in the same place, indifferent. He thought that Zhuowen was scared silly, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. Little bastard, die for me. Wu Taiji suddenly leaped, his entire body erupting with a blazing golden light. All the acupoints on his body erupted with endless multicolored light. A terrifying aura came crashing down like a dark cloud. The entire Sanqing Mountain seemed to be suppressed by this aura and began to tremble violently. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Wu Taiji had already arrived in front of Zhuowen. He formed a fist with his right hand and punched out, aiming directly at Zhuowen's face. Wu Taiji didn't hold back and didn't dare to be careless. Zhuowen was able to escape from 2 encirclements of the foreign races. It was clear that he had a strong foundation and strength. When Wu Taiji's fist came closer and closer, Zhuowen's eyes slowly narrowed. He took a step forward, his right hand forming a fist. All the muscles on his body swelled as he fiercely punched out. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the golden and purple light collided, exploding into countless specks of light that scattered in all directions. Terrifying ripples of energy spread out, causing Sanqing Mountain to tremble even more violently. Countless cracks actually appeared on the surface of the mountain. Sanqing Mountain was created by Taoist 3 purities, after all. It was no ordinary mountain, but a divine mountain. It was abnormally tough and wouldn't be so easily destroyed. But now, it had almost been destroyed. From this, one could see just how terrifying the clash between Zhuowen and Wu Taiji was. Bing Hui stood where he was and waved his sleeve. Instantly, the entire Sanqing Mountain was frozen by a cold aura. The mountain that had been on the verge of collapse was completely stabilized. As for the picturesque Sanqing Mountain, it was transformed into a vast expanse of snowy white. Splurt! Suddenly, a figure flew out from the peak of the mountain. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell in a parabola. Everyone's eyes narrowed when they saw this figure. They discovered that this figure was actually the head of the Tower of Shamans, Wu Taiji, the #1 expert of the desolate street. Is that all you've got? A voice rang out from the peak of the mountain to everyone's stupefied gazes. Zhuowen leapt up and instantly closed in on Wu Taiji. Zhuowen's right knee slammed into Wu Taiji's spine. With a crack, Wu Taiji's spine shattered. Wu Taiji screamed and flew into the sky. Boom! 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 Zhuowen kicked out and caught up to Wu Taiji. His fists were like lightning as they landed on Wu Taiji's body. At this moment, Zhuowen's entire body was covered in a purple haze. The power of his fist was extremely terrifying, like numerous purple stars rising into the sky. Wu Taiji, on the other hand, could only passively endure. His screams were practically unheard. How is this possible? Wu Taiji is actually being beaten to the point where he can't even fight back? It wasn't just the human cultivators who were stunned. The alien army fell into a daze as well. The 3 ancestors of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, the Moonwolf clan, and the Giant Turtle clan, standing behind Bing Hui, had their mouths wide open in shock. The Black King's body stiffened. He stared at the scene in the sky as if he had been petrified. Zhuowen fought his way up and sent Wu Taiji flying into the sky. Mount Sanqing turned into a black dot. Die! Zhuo eyes burned with killing intent as he punched out with his right fist, which landed between Wu Taiji's eyebrows. Zhuo, a fifth blight expert, isn't that easy to kill. With Lord Binghui here, you're dead meat. Wu Taiji was both shocked and angry as he watched Zhuo's approaching fist. However, he was very calm inside. Although he was shocked by Zhuo's terrifying strength, he knew that Binghui was stronger. As long as Binghui attacked, this kid was dead meat. Chapter 36:15. Splat. Zhuo's fist was as hot as the sun as it instantly pierced through Wu Taiji's head. Wu Taiji's head exploded. He didn't even have time to scream before he turned into a headless corpse that fell from the sky. Bang! Wu Taiji's corpse landed heavily on the square in front of Sanqing Palace. The powerful impact caused the square's ground to crack. An invisible ripple of energy rapidly spread out in all directions in a ring shape. The entire Sanqing mountain shook violently once again. The ice crystals on the surface of the mountain that had been frozen by the ice radiance were shattered by the powerful impact, and many cracks appeared on the surface of the mountain. The entire Mount Sanqing fell into a long period of silence. Both the human race and the alien race were still in shock. None of the cultivators present were weak. Their consciousness wasn't weak either. Zhuo and Wu Taiji's battle had reached the highest heavens. Their consciousness had seen everything clearly. In the end, Zhuo shattered Wu Taiji's head with a punch. Then, Wu Taiji became a headless corpse that fell from the sky and smashed into the peak of the mountain. He never got up again. They couldn't even sense Wu Taiji's aura anymore. Everyone knew that Zhuo's punch had directly killed Wu Taiji. However, what they didn't understand was that Wu Taiji was a late-stage fifth blight cultivator. He wasn't that easy to kill. For cultivators who had reached this level, even if their soul was heavily injured or their body collapsed, they could quickly recover as long as a trace of their soul still existed, unless the divine soul was instantly destroyed. Everyone clearly saw Zhuo's cultivation level. He was only at the peak of the third blight. His cultivation level couldn't compare to Wu Taiji's at all. Needless to say, his soul was stronger than Wu Taiji's. But even so, Wu Taiji was killed, and it was an instant kill. This Zhuo is really not to be trifled with. The ancestors of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, Moonwolf clan, and Giant Turtle clan secretly communicated with each other. Their eyes were filled with fear. At the same time, they rejoiced that they hadn't agreed when Wu Taiji asked them to send people to kill Zhuo. They had remained neutral. So strong. This brat has hidden himself really well. The corner of the Black King's lips twitched. Remembering how he once played around with Ling Xian, he felt a little nervous. He also thought of the three pure ones who were injured, and a look of realization appeared in his eyes. He knew that the three pure ones' injuries had something to do with Zhuo. Bing Hui's eyes narrowed. He lifted his head and looked at the figure floating in the sky with a smile on his face. Interesting, very interesting. I can't believe he has the power of a fragmented god. Bing Hui muttered to himself. His eyes were burning with passion. He could feel that Zhuo was only at the peak of the third blight, but in the battle just now, he could feel the power of broken god force. He hadn't broken through the heavens, but he possessed the power of the shattering gods. What did this mean? In the 100 domains of the outer realms, even the top geniuses had never been able to obtain shattering divine power before breaking through to the heavens. However, this happened to Zhuo. This kid must have a big secret on him. Zhuo slowly descended from the sky and stood in the mountain gate. He didn't even look at Wu Taiji, who was lying in the middle of the square and had already died. The reason why he could get rid of Wu Taiji so easily was mainly because his original body had fused with his clone. His battle strength had reached the peak of the fifth blight. In the past 3 days, his original body had reached the edge of a breakthrough, and his clone had absorbed Di Jiang and Niz's venomous insects, increasing his Panga sacred body to the great perfection realm. With such battle strength and the shattering divine power, he could easily get rid of Wu Taiji, who was at the late stage of the fifth blight. Bing Hui, you let such a piece of trash come to me to die, and you're hiding in the back. Are you afraid? Zhuan looked down at Bing Hui, who was not far away. His voice was calm, but had a hint of provocation. You don't need to provoke me. I will definitely fight today. The reason why I let Wu Taiji fight is just to let you live a little longer. What I didn't expect was that you really do have some skills. Wu Taiji was actually not your match. Bing Hui walked forward step by step. With every step he took, the surrounding temperature continued to drop. The three ancestors behind Bing Hui suddenly felt a bone-chilling cold. They began to tremble and stopped, not daring to follow Bing Hui. The foreign race and human cultivators further away hurriedly retreated. Their cultivation was not high enough, so they could not withstand such a terrifying chill. Suddenly, snowflakes began to fall from the sky above Mount Sanqing. The snowflakes became thicker and thicker, and in the blink of an eye, the entire Mount Sanqing was covered in snowflakes. The feather snowflakes were quite weird. Some non-humankind and human cultivators who didn't manage to evacuate from Mount Sanqing were immediately corroded by the terrifying coldness and turned into ice statues soon after they touched the feather snowflakes. Run! The three ancestors of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, the Moonwolf clan, and the Giant Turtle clan realized that something was wrong. They no longer cared about Bing Hui and rushed down the mountain. The snowflakes fell on them, forming terrifying ice crystals on their bodies. If it weren't for their high cultivation and the energy in their bodies, the three of them probably wouldn't have been able to escape the fate of being frozen like the other cultivators. When the three ancestors finally reached the foot of the mountain and left the range of the snowflakes, they immediately fell to the ground, gasping for breath. They didn't say anything. They immediately sat down cross-legged and began to circulate their heavenly Tao energy to drive away the terrifying chill that had already invaded their bodies. The Black King and some other human cultivators had reached Mount Sanqing in time, so they weren't too affected. However, when they saw the state of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, the Moonwolf clan, and the Giant Turtle clan's ancestors, they all felt a chill in their hearts. So strong. The level of power that Bing Hui used is far beyond what we can compare to. Even if his cultivation is suppressed to the peak of the fifth blight, his strength is far beyond that. The Black King's gaze was grave. He felt the terror of the snowflakes and finally believed what the three purities had told him. Bing Hui was an existence they could not fight against. Zhuan, can he really be Bing Hui's match? The Black King raised his head and looked at the young man standing in front of the mountain gate. His eyes were filled with worry. Although the Black King had played with Zhuan before, he admired Zhuan a lot. He didn't want Zhuan to die like this. Thump, thump, thump. Bing Hui faced the snowflakes and arrived at the mountain gate, brushing past Zhuan. He didn't stop. Instead, he came to the deep pit in the center of the square and slowly squatted down. You completely destroyed Wu Taiji's soul in one move. It seems your soul has surpassed the peak of the fifth blight. Bing Hui looked at the headless corpse in the pit and calmly analyzed. Zhuan slowly turned around and silently looked at Bing Hui's back without saying a word. Chapter 36:16. Zhuan's gaze was calm as he asked, "Are there people without Tao roots in the 100 Outer Realms?" Bing Hui was stunned. He didn't expect Zhuan to ask him a question at a time like this, but he didn't care. Now, Zhuan was already a dead man in his eyes. Of course there are. Although the 100 Outer Realms are controlled by clans, they aren't the only ones. Every realm has a large number of forces. There are also a large number of mortals. Of course, the mortals of the 100 Outer Realms are much nobler than the mortals of the lower realms. They all have cultivation, and some even reach the virtual sky realm. The reason we call them mortals is because they don't have Tao roots in their bodies. They can't attain Tao in their entire lives. Zhuan's eyes narrowed. He didn't expect there to be people without Tao roots in the 100 Outer Realms. He thought that the 100 Outer Realms basically only had cultivators above the heaven-breaking realm. It seemed he was wrong. Could it be that no one with Tao roots succeeded in attaining Tao? Zhuan asked with bright eyes. Bing Hui sneered. How could someone without Tao root succeed in attaining Tao? This is simply defying the heavens. It's impossible. After saying this, Bing Hui suddenly stopped. He thought of something and carefully sized up Zhuowen. His gaze became more and more serious. You? Could it be that you have no Tao roots? Bing Hui asked seriously. Zhuowen laughed loudly and strode towards Bing Hui. His whole body erupted with a terrifying purple light that illuminated the sky. At this moment, Zhuowen made his move. The primordial technique circulated rapidly in his body. His black hair turned purple in the blink of an eye. Moreover, his purple hair grew crazily and hung down to his waist. Bing Hui's gaze was serious. He grabbed at the air with his right hand. Instantly, the ice and snow that swept over condensed into an ice spear. He faintly guessed that this Zhuowen might really be someone without Tao roots. Moreover, this was someone who succeeded in attaining Tao. This kid must have a great secret on him. He must be killed. It was definitely not luck that allowed someone without a Tao root to successfully corroborate their Tao. There must be some shocking secret that allowed them to succeed in the end. Bing Hui's killing intent soared. He took a step forward and instantly collided with Zhuowen. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, the two of them engaged in a fierce battle, and terrifying energy surged out. The two of them were on top of the mountain peak. Under the heavy snow, they turned into numerous afterimages, like two ghosts. Great formation, rise. When Zhuowen and Bing Hui clashed, Zhuowen knew that he was still slightly weaker than Bing Hui. Therefore, he immediately activated the trap and kill array that he had set up around him. This confinement killing array was a heaven-breaking stage 1 confinement killing array that Zhuowen had deduced on his own. A heaven-breaking level 1 confinement killing array? Bing Hui's face changed slightly. His movements slowed down as his power was greatly reduced by the trap and kill array. Bang! Zhuowen seized the opportunity and punched Bing Huidu in the chest. Bing Hui groaned and fell to the ground. Zhuowen frowned slightly. Blood appeared on his right fist. A heaven breaker armor. Huh. Zhuowen looked down at Bing Hui, who stood up again and was unharmed, and said calmly. Bing Hui looked up to the sky and laughed. Zhuowen, I underestimated you. You can actually set up a heaven-breaking level 1 confinement killing array. You're definitely the first person in this universe since ancient times. However, no matter how strong your array skills are, you'll still die today. I have a heaven-breaking armor. Your attacks can't hurt me at all, but I can kill you alive. Boom! After Bing Hui finished speaking, he shot out like a cannonball and engaged in a fierce battle with Zhuowen again. The entire Mount Sanqing was shaking nonstop, and the heavy snowfall grew heavier and heavier, covering the entire Mount Sanqing. At the foot of the mountain, everyone was dumbfounded. Looking at the shocking battle on the mountain peak, everyone's hearts were filled with fear. Too strong. This kind of battle had long surpassed the scope of their universe. Zhuowen groaned. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He looked at Bing Hui, who was also pushed back a few steps. Bing Hui's strength was indeed terrifying. If it wasn't for the confinement killing array restraining this guy, Zhuowen might have been defeated. Zhuowen, you should be proud to be able to fight me to this extent. I won't play with you anymore. This move will kill you. Bing Hui laughed wildly. He formed a seal with both hands. Waves of cold air condensed on his hands, finally forming a crystal-clear ice blade. This ice blade only had a blade and no hilt. A sharp and terrifying saber chi swept out violently. Even the surrounding trap and kill array was affected by this ice saber. Blade condenses the world. Bing Hui raised his hands. The ice blade flew into the air. Then he stepped on the back of the blade. Clang! The ice blade suddenly swept out. Its speed was as fast as lightning. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Strangely, as the ice blade flew through the air, it changed its position dozens of times in the blink of an eye. It was as if it had teleported. Zhuowen couldn't determine which direction the ice blade came from. What a strange ice blade. Zhuowen's eyes were solemn. He took a deep breath, and a blazing golden light surged between his eyebrows. Sword come, Zhuowen roared. His right hand touched between his eyebrows. The golden light left his body and shot out instantly. A golden divine sword soared into the sky and soared in the air. The moment the first golden divine sword flew out, the golden light between his eyebrows didn't dim. Instead, it shot out golden light again and again. In an instant, 9 rays of golden light shot out and condensed into 9 divine swords. Including the first one, there were a total of 10 divine swords. Sword guard. Zhuowen's mind moved. 10 godly soul sword essences formed a circle around him to protect him. His face was extremely pale. Releasing 10 godly soul sword essences at once consumed a lot of his energy. However, he had to do it because the ice blade was too fast and its tracks were too strange. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the ice blade landed behind him and was blocked by one of the godly soul sword essences. Clang, clang, clang. The moment the ice blade collided with the first godly soul sword essence, its angle changed dozens of times. Each time, it slashed toward Zhuowen, creating sparks with the godly soul sword essences. Although the ice blade was fast, there were too many godly soul sword essences. Moreover, they surrounded Zhuowen and blocked the ice blade's attacks. Zhuowen's eyes lit up. A terrifying energy began to surge in his body. This energy was simply too terrifying, and it had been suppressed by Zhuowen all along. It's coming, Zhuowen muttered to himself. He stomped his right foot and charged toward Bing Hui with 10 godly soul sword essences to block the ice blade surprise attack. Bing Hui's face was gloomy. He did not expect Zhuowen to block his ice blade. This made him angry. Now that he saw Zhuowen taking the initiative to come to him, killing intent boiled in his heart. He charged forward without thinking. However, Bing Hui soon realized that something was wrong. He realized that a terrifying blight tribulation aura was surging out of Zhuowen's body. This aura exploded and shot into the sky. Then a huge black hole appeared in the sky. This black hole was like a single eye, staring at Zhuowen and Bing Hui below. Blight tribulation? I didn't expect you to break through at this time. You want to drag me through the blight tribulation? Bing Hui immediately knew Zhuowen's intention. He laughed mockingly. It's just the 4th blight tribulation. Do you think it's useful to me? It's just scratching an itch. Then why don't you try and see if it's just scratching an itch? Zhuowen sneered and completely released the blight tribulation aura. Chapter 36:17. Whoosh. The white flames in the black hole instantly spread across the entire Sanqing Mountain. Its power wasn't any weaker than the snow. At this moment, the snow and flames intertwined on Sanqing Mountain, forming a strange and terrifying scene. It's the ultimate Hanin flame. Then Zhuowen has broken through to the 4th blight. Is this the 4th blight? At the foot of the mountain, the Black King and the others were all stunned. They could feel that Zhuowen had indeed broken through to the 4th blight, but this blight was a bit too terrifying. It was an ultimate Hanin flame from the very beginning, and it was an endless sea of ultimate Hanin flame. This was far more terrifying than the 5th blight. In the blink of an eye, the ultimate Hanin flame drowned out Zhuowen and Bing Hui's figures. The people at the foot of the mountain could no longer see the battle. It's really extraordinary. It's only the 4th blight, but it's already so terrifying. Bing Hui floated in the air, looking at Zhuowen with a gloomy gaze. Ice blades constantly flashed around his body, resisting the terrifying ultimate Hanin flame. It had to be said that Bing Hui's ice blades were indeed extraordinary. They could both attack and defend. Zhuowen took a deep breath. He floated not far from Bing Hui, and 10 divine soul sword intents intertwined around his body, forming a perfect defense. Once the ultimate Hanin flame approached him, the sword chi released by the 10 divine soul sword intents blocked the ultimate Hanin flame. This is only the beginning. Zhuowen coldly snorted and took a step forward. His purple hair grew crazily from his waist to his hips, and his strength instantly skyrocketed. The primordial chaos technique was born from the immemorial primordial chaos technique, and it was extremely extraordinary. At this moment, Zhuowen was circulating the primordial technique without regard for his life, and his strength surged to an unprecedentedly terrifying height. Good. Bing Hui's gaze was dark. He also took a step forward and collided with Zhuowen. Bang! 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 In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. Every time they collided, the energy ripples would explode and spread out in a circular shape. The surrounding extreme Han Yin flames were all destroyed. At the same time, the ice blade and the 10 spirit sword intense clashed violently. The ear-piercing sound of metal clashing resounded endlessly. Thud, thud, thud. Suddenly, the two separated again. Zhuowen's mouth was bleeding, and his eyes were cold. Bing Hui was completely unscathed, but his face was abnormally pale. He looked at Zhuowen with an ugly expression and said, "The power of your divine sense hasn't even reached the heaven-crushing second transformation. Yet you're actually so strange." Bing Hui had already sensed that Zhuowen's attacks contained a spirit attack when he had fought with Zhuowen. His cultivation base was originally at the heaven-crushing second transformation, and his spirit had barely reached the heaven-crushing second transformation. In his opinion, although Zhuowen's strength was not bad, his spirit was definitely his weak point. Therefore, he didn't pay much attention to Zhuowen's spirit attack after blocking it. However, as he continued to exchange blows with Zhuowen, he discovered that Zhuowen's soul was not simple at all. Every time he blocked Zhuowen's attack, there would always be an obscure energy remaining in his soul. Moreover, it would shake violently and affect his soul. Because of the protection of the ice armor, he didn't suffer any injuries at all. However, his spirit was actually damaged. "You talk too much." Zhuowen turned into an afterimage and launched a frenzied attack on Bing Hui again. Bing Hui's gaze was dark. At the same time, he went up to meet him. However, this time he was careful. Every time he collided with Zhuowen, he forcibly destroyed Zhuowen's spirit attack. However, Bing Hui soon discovered in shock that he couldn't destroy the obscure energy in Zhuowen's spirit at all. This obscure energy kept accumulating in his spirit like a ticking time bomb. It kept stirring in his spirit and started to affect his starry sky. What made Bing Hui even more shocked was that as the blight tribulation continued to descend, its power became stronger and stronger. Even though he had the ice armor, he started to suffer serious injuries. On the other hand, although Zhuowen looked much more miserable than Bing Hui in the blight tribulation and was covered in blood, this guy was still going through the tribulation. As the blight tribulation continued to descend, as time passed, this guy's aura continued to rise. His strength also continued to increase. In the beginning, Bing Hui had the upper hand in the battle. However, the situation was gradually reversed. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the black hole in the sky no longer spat out the ultimate Han Yin flame. An even more terrifying aura was brewing inside the black hole. Bing Hui's heart skipped a beat when he felt this aura. He knew that this blight tribulation was going to be serious. An energy even more terrifying than the ultimate Han Yin flame was about to descend. At this moment, Bing Hui only wanted to leave this place as quickly as possible and avoid Zhuowen's blight tribulation. Unfortunately, Zhuowen wouldn't let him have his way. He clung tightly to Bing Hui, making it impossible for him to escape. Finally, the black hole's aura reached its peak. Then, it spat out palm-sized fire lotuses. These fire lotuses were formed purely from some kind of blood-red flame. They looked extremely lifelike, as if they were real, blooming lotuses. Destructive red lotuses? Bing Hui's pupils contracted when he saw the descending fire lotuses. He let out a cry of shock and fear. The destructive red lotuses were extremely famous in the 100 territories of the Outer Realm. Only some dangerous places could produce such terrifying and destructive energy. These destructive red lotuses were powerful enough to injure heaven-crushing transformation stage cultivators. Moreover, with so many of them descending from the black hole, Bing Hui probably wouldn't be able to escape even with his ice armor. Boom! Boom! The destructive red lotuses fell like rain, landing on Zhuan and Bing Hui's bodies. Ah! Bing Hui let out a cry of agony. The instant the destructive red lotuses landed on his body, they immediately exploded, forming a ball of destructive energy that enveloped his entire body. The instant the destructive red lotuses landed on Zhuan, his expression changed drastically. He summoned his golden coffin without hesitation, opened the lid, and hid inside. The destructive red lotuses were extremely powerful, and he didn't have the confidence to face them head-on. This time, he didn't have any items that could weaken his blight tribulation. He had prepared everything in order to resist Bing Hui. Thus, if he really didn't rely on anything, he would probably die on the spot. The golden coffin was extremely sturdy. The destructive red lotuses landed on its surface, causing terrifying explosions one after another. However, they didn't leave much of a mark on its surface. However, the golden coffin shook violently from the impact, like a small boat swaying on the surface of the sea. This guy has a heaven-crushing divine tool, and it's a level 2 heaven-crushing divine tool. Bing Hui's condition was extremely poor. His face was covered in soot from the destructive red lotuses. Even his hair had been burnt to a crisp. However, an expression of disbelief appeared on his face when he saw the golden coffin. Chapter 36:18. Although Bing Hui's cultivation was only at the second transformation of the Heaven Breaker, it was still extremely rare for him to have a Heaven Breaker level 1 divine artifact. If the Ice Fiend King hadn't given him the ice armor for his contributions, he wouldn't have a Heaven Breaker level divine artifact. The ice armor was only a Heaven Breaker level 1 divine artifact. However, Zhuan, whom he had always looked down on, actually had a Heaven Breaker level 2 defensive divine artifact. How could he not be shocked? This kid must die. Whatever he has, we must take it from him. Bing Hui's eyes flashed with greed. But soon, his greed was replaced by fear because the number of destructive red lotuses in the black hole was increasing. They poured down like a torrential rain. Then, Bing Hui began to scream even more miserably. Inside the golden coffin, Zhuan sat cross-legged quietly. Although the coffin kept shaking, he was as still as a mountain. Zhuan was constantly adjusting his state of mind. At the same time, his divine will was constantly monitoring Bing Hui. When he saw Bing Hui crying for his parents after being bombarded by the destructive red lotuses, he felt a chill in his heart. The destructive red lotuses were too terrifying. If he faced them head-on, he wouldn't be as good as Bing Hui. The destructive red lotuses only lasted for half an hour before gradually decreasing and finally disappearing. The black hole in the sky kept wriggling and slowly dissipated. Obviously, the blight tribulation was finally over. On the peak of Sanqing Mountain, the square in front of Sanqing Palace was already unrecognizable. Sanqing Palace was also in ruins. There were 2 huge pits on the ground. In one of the pits, there was a golden coffin lying quietly. In the other pit, Bing Hui's body was covered in blood. He was curled up in the pit, motionless. Bang! In the ruins at the edge of Sanqing Palace, the green-haired mummy crawled out with difficulty. His eyes were filled with fear as he tiptoed toward the ruins of the square. He went straight to the golden coffin, knocked on it, and asked softly, "Master, are you all right?" As soon as the green-haired mummy finished speaking, the lid of the golden coffin opened with a creak. The mummy was so scared that he fell on his butt. "Master!" However, the green-furred mummy soon recognized that the person walking out of the golden coffin was none other than Zhuan. At this moment, Zhuan's eyes were bright and spirited, and an extremely vast and terrifying aura swept out from his body. He had passed the 4th blight and had completely entered the 4th blight. His entire person seemed to have been reborn. If he were to fight Bing Hui again, he would be able to fight Bing Hui head-on without the help of the blight power. Zhuan jumped out of the pit and arrived at another pit. However, when he arrived at the edge of the deep pit, a sharp saber chi swept out from the pit. Then a handleless ice blade swept out and disappeared in front of him in the blink of an eye. Then it reappeared behind his head and slashed down fiercely. Zhuowen coldly snorted. He suddenly turned around and punched out. Purple chi erupted from his body, and his black hair turned purple in the blink of an eye, hanging down to his waist. Clang! The ice blade and Zhuowen's fist collided and shattered in the blink of an eye. The moment the ice blade shattered, a black figure suddenly swept out from the deep pit and appeared behind Zhuowen. Zhuowen died. The black figure was Bing Hui. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He held an ice spear in his hand and stabbed it at the back of Zhuowen's head. Destiny space-time kill. Zhuowen's eyes turned cold. He used the only superpower he had created, the Destiny space-time kill. Suddenly, a long purple river surged out from the void behind him. In the blink of an eye, it swept Bing Hui into it. In the purple river, Bing Hui had the illusion that his fate was being strangled. An invisible force seemed to be shaking the strings of his fate. But soon, Bing Hui came to his senses. He waved the spear in his hand, and the purple river instantly collapsed. Then, he swept out from the purple river. Zhuowen, on the other hand, had put some distance between him and Bing Hui in this short moment. The power of the Destiny space-time kill can't keep up with my strength anymore. Zhuowen looked at the purple river being easily destroyed by Bing Hui and sighed in his heart. His strength had improved too quickly. The Destiny space-time kill was one of his trump cards, but now it wasn't enough. Zhuowen's gaze fell on Bing Hui. He realized that the latter was in a sorry state. The ice armor on his body was shattered, and he was dripping with blood. His aura had also become much weaker. Zhuowen, I underestimated you. I didn't expect you to have a rank 2 heaven-breaking divine artifact. You're just an aboriginal. How could you have such a divine artifact? Bing Hui said, panting slightly. Zhuowen grinned and said, I think you should go to hell and ask the king of hell about this. After speaking, Zhuowen took a step forward. He didn't hide his strength anymore. He unleashed all of his strength and charged at Bing Hui. Bing Hui's expression changed slightly. His injuries were too severe. His strength had decreased a lot, and his life-saving ice armor was also severely damaged. Zhuowen, on the other hand, had just advanced. His strength had reached an unprecedented peak. He gradually had the intention to retreat. Boom! Zhuowen's attack arrived in the blink of an eye. Bing Hui had no choice but to take it head-on. The heavy snow was still falling. However, it wasn't as heavy as before. It gradually became lighter. Pucci! 2 figures clashed in the heavy snow. Immediately after, a figure flew out and crashed heavily into the snow. Too weak. Bing Hui, you've actually become so weak. It's really not satisfying. Zhuowen's feet landed on the ground. He didn't stop at all and charged at Bing Hui again. Bing Hui formed a seal with both hands and condensed 2 ice spears. However, they were both shattered by Zhuowen's punch. Kacha! Zhuowen's right fist suddenly fell vertically and landed heavily on Bing Hui's body. A circular energy ripple appeared in the air. Bing Hui was penetrated by his fist and nailed to the ground. I can't accept this. You ant, if I wasn't restricted by the starry sky and could only use the peak of the 5th blight, I would have already killed you with a single finger. Bing Hui was obviously at the end of his rope. His eyes were wide open as he stared at Zhuowen and roared unwillingly. If I were at the same realm as you, I would have been able to kill you with a single finger in the chaotic starry sky. Zhuowen's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. He had inherited the immemorial primordial technique. His strength was unparalleled. In the same realm, he was the only one who could instantly kill others. Zhuowen, I'm a disciple of the Ice Fiend King of the other ghost tribe. You can't kill me. If you kill me, you'll have to die too. Bing Hui felt the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes and finally felt fear. He yelled and brought out the Ice Fiend King behind him. Even if you're the disciple of the Heavenly Emperor, I'll still kill you. Since you're the one who provoked me first, then don't blame me for killing you. Zhuowen's eyes were indifferent. He formed a sword with his right hand and pointed it at Bing Hui's forehead. At the same time, Strands of soul sword intent condensed between Zhuowen's eyebrows and flowed into Bing Hui's forehead through his sword finger. A total of 9 soul sword intents rushed into Bing Hui's soul and began to destroy it. Bing Hui screamed as his body spasmed and spasmed. Blood flowed out of his orifices and his eyes were wide open. Pucci! Zhuowen punched Bing Hui's head. Finally, Bing Hui's screams came to an abrupt end. The snow stopped. The green-haired mummy following behind Zhuowen realized that the heavy snow had completely stopped. The entire Mount Sanqing had become incomparably quiet. Zhuowen put away Bing Hui's spirit ring and stood up. He flicked out a divine flame and burned Bing Hui to ashes. "Master, where are you going?" The green-haired mummy asked in surprise when he saw Zhuowen walking towards the mountain gate. Chapter 36:19. The snow has stopped. At the foot of Mount Three Purities, both human and outsider cultivators noticed that the heavy snowfall had suddenly stopped. Everyone's eyes were filled with bewilderment. They had no idea what the situation on Mount Sanqing was like. Ever since Zhuowen's blight tribulation descended, the entire Sanqing mountain seemed to have formed a terrifying domain. Everyone's divine sense could not enter Sanqing mountain at all, so naturally, they could not see the battle between Zhuowen and Bing Hui. Even though the snow had stopped, their spiritual sense was still blocked outside Mount Sanqing. They could only look into the distance with their naked eyes. However, Mount Sanqing was extremely high. No matter how strong their cultivation was and how much eyesight surpassed that of mortals, they still couldn't clearly see the battle at the peak of the mountain. The Black King's eyes flashed. The snow was a manifestation of Bing Hui's power. From the beginning of the battle to the climax, the snow had been falling on Mount Sanqing. Now that it had suddenly stopped, he knew that something had happened to Bing Hui. The ancestors of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, Moon Wolf clan, and Giant Turtle clan were uneasy. Their thoughts were similar to the Black King's. The snow had stopped too abruptly, so it was hard for them not to think negatively. "Someone's coming down." Someone in the crowd suddenly shouted, pointing at the stone steps above. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Numerous gazes landed on the stone steps in unison. They really did see 2 figures. Walking at the front was a young man with a calm expression. Behind the young man, a green mummy followed respectfully. "That's Zhuowen." When everyone's eyes fell on the young man, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. The surroundings fell into an eerie silence. That was because everyone recognized the identity of the young man. He was Zhuowen. When everyone came back to their senses, the eyes of the human cultivators lit up. They had a vague guess, and they couldn't suppress the excitement on their faces. As for the foreign cultivators, they were all pale. Their eyes were glazed and filled with disbelief. The ancestors of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, Moon Wolf clan, and Giant Turtle clan almost couldn't stand still. "Zhuowen, what about Bing Hui?" The Black King took a step forward and stopped in front of Zhuowen. He stared at Zhuowen with bright eyes. Zhuowen stopped. Before he could say anything, the green-haired mummy behind him said smugly, "My master is unparalleled in this world. How can a mere old man like Aishui be a match for my master? Right now, not even dregs are left of that old geezer Bing Hui. He's already turned into ashes." Silence. It was so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. When Zhuowen came down from Mount Sanqing, everyone had their guesses. But now, the green-haired corpse general had announced the final result. That was another matter altogether. This news was like a huge rock that was thrown into a lake, causing unimaginable waves. "Are you serious?" The Black King was so excited that his whole body was trembling. He knelt on one knee and thanked Zhuowen solemnly. It wasn't just the Black King. All of the human cultivators on Sanqing Street knelt on one knee to express their gratitude to Zhuowen. The 3 ancestors of the Nine-Tailed Fox tribe, the Moon Wolf tribe, and the Giant Turtle tribe almost fainted. Bing Hui really had been killed by Zhuowen. This guy was heaven-defying. Not only did he kill Wu Taiji, but he even killed the Outer Realm expert, Bing Hui. Just how strong was he? The foreign race army that had surrounded the human cultivators was also shocked by this news. They involuntarily retreated, no longer daring to surround the human cultivators. The green-haired mummy became even more smug when he saw everyone kneel. He cleared his throat and said, "That's more like it. My master is your savior. If it weren't for my master, your Sanqing Street would have been taken over by the Flood Street. In my opinion, my master is much more reliable than that nuisance Taoist three purities of your Sanqing Street." AI. Before the green-haired mummy could finish speaking, Zhuowen picked him up and casually tossed him to the side. When the green-furred corpse saw Zhuowen's cold gaze, it immediately shut its mouth and stopped talking. Bang! At this moment, a middle-aged man was tied up and thrown in front of Zhuowen. "Fellow Taoist Zhuo, this guy exposed your location in front of Bing Hui. He also pointed out fellow Taoist Rao Tianhan, Mi Jinwan, and Tang Taihong. In the end, all three of them were killed by Bing Hui. Jiang Ruisi, who carried a divine sword on his back, and Du Huaqian, who had a divine saber on his waist, walked over and pointed at the middle-aged man who was tied up in front of Zhuowen. Fellow Taoist Rao and the other two died?" Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. Rao Tianhan and the other two were grateful. They had specially returned to the Nightmare Abyss to remind him of Bing Hui's matter and wanted him to escape as soon as possible. Moreover, when Zhuowen planned to face Bing Hui, the three of them supported him and were willing to face it with him. It could be said that the three of them were open and above board. Zhuowen admired them very much. Now, the three of them had been killed by Bing Hui because of this person's snitch. Zhuowen was furious and murderous intent rose in his heart. "Lord Zhuo, please spare my life. I was blinded for a moment. I won't dare to do it again. Seeing that we're all humans, please spare my life." Ah! Before the middle-aged man could finish speaking, Zhuowen stomped on his chest. A terrifying force exploded, and the ground at the foot of the mountain trembled. Then, terrifying cracks appeared. Pucci! The middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were wide open, and he completely lost his breath. The surrounding people looked at the middle-aged man who had been stomped to death by Zhuowen and were all silent. This was an expert that even the Outer Realm expert, Bing Hui, wasn't a match for. How would they dare to criticize this person, seeing that we're all humans? A mocking smile appeared on Zhuowen's face as he continued, "Why don't I see you treating me as a member of the human race? When Bing Hui came to denounce me, it seemed like most of you were clamoring to hand me over. Now, you're using this method to morally kidnap me? Do you think I, Zhuowen, am easy to bully?" Zhuowen flicked out a divine flame that landed on the middle-aged man and burned him to ashes. Most of the human cultivators present lowered their heads in shame when they heard Zhuowen's words. They were all the people who wanted a hand over Zhuowen and resented Zhuowen for bringing disaster to Sanqing Street. They weren't stupid. They knew that although Zhuowen's words were directed at the middle-aged man, they were actually directed at them. "Fellow Taoist Du, fellow Taoist Jiang, please take me to fellow Taoist Rao," Zhuowen said cautiously. Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi naturally didn't object and hurriedly led the way. After Zhuowen left, only the alien army and human cultivators were left looking at each other, not knowing how to deal with each other. Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi brought Zhuowen to the ice hand that trapped Rao Tianhan and the other two. Rao Tianhan and the other two had already turned into 3 ice sculptures in the ice hand's palm. Chapter 36:20. Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi helped the 3 up and found that they were still breathing. They said in surprise, "Taoist Zhuo, they're still alive, but they're very weak now and unconscious." Zhuowen sighed and nodded. He took out 3 healing pellets and handed them to Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi. He cupped his fists and said, "I'll have to trouble the 2 of you to help me take care of the 3 of them." Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi naturally agreed at once. Zhuowen was no longer the same as before. This person could even defeat Bing Hui. His strength could be said to be heaven-defying. He was enough to be called an invincible existence in this starry sky. They naturally wanted to get close to such an existence. They wouldn't offend him easily. Zhuo, I hope you can remember our old friendship and save the three pure ones. The Black King rushed over with Lian Meng and the little Taoist. He cupped his fists and said to Zhuo, "Today, I'll give you face, Black King. However, if the three pure ones show any signs of plotting against me in the future, I, Zhuo, will kill him even if I have to go to heaven or hell." After Zhuo finished speaking, he waved his sleeve. Not far away, the ice hand that trapped the three pure ones collapsed. Zhuo didn't even look at the three pure ones. He took the green-haired corpse and left the three pure one street. He planned to enter the desolation street directly. The three pure ones fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. His consciousness was not clear. The Black King quickly helped the three pure ones up and fed him a healing pill. Only then did he manage to stabilize the three pure ones' injuries. Black King, Zhuo, he's not dead? Didn't Bing Hui find him? The three pure ones looked at Zhuo's back and said in shock. Bing Hui personally came to the three pure one street to kill this Zhuo. This kid actually didn't die? The Black King smiled bitterly and said, Bing Hui did find Zhuo and fought a great battle. In the end, Bing Hui died. What? The three pure ones trembled. He was so shocked that his heart was beating wildly. He thought he heard wrong. It wasn't until the Black King repeated himself that three pure ones realized he hadn't heard wrong. Bing Hui had indeed been killed by Zhuo. Every generation brings forth new talents. Of the three pure ones, Zhuo is not someone we can provoke. In the future, it's best to avoid him. The Black King said with a complicated expression. Three pure ones' eyes were blank. In the end, he let out a long sigh and said, You're right. Zhuo is not someone we can provoke in the future. He's already the strongest person in this expanse of the starry sky. How could I possibly offend such a person? At this point, the three pure ones appeared very dispirited, as if they had aged a lot in an instant. In the desolate street, in the Shaman Tower, Wu Xiangjuan held the communication jade talisman in her right hand. When she saw the message, her delicate body stiffened. Tower Master is dead. Even Lord Bing Hui was killed this. Wu Xiangjuan's mind was in a mess. She had never thought that Wu Taiji and Bing Hui would go to Sanqing Street to capture Zhuo Wen and occupy it. The final outcome was actually like this. But soon, Wu Xiangjuan calmed down. She knew very well that with the death of Wu Taiji and Bing Hui, Zhuo's target was likely to be the Shaman Tower. Zhuo and Lord Bing Hui must have had a fierce battle. I'm afraid that he's seriously injured now. He'll definitely go to treat his wounds first. This is our chance to escape. Wu Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes flashed with wisdom. Immediately, she sent a message to the third master of the Shaman Tower, Wu Xianshi. Wu Xianshi was at the early stage of the fourth decay. He was an expert second only to the two tower masters in the Shaman Tower. With the two tower masters dead, Wu Xianshi was now the strongest expert in the Shaman Tower and had the highest prestige. Wu Xiangjuan asked Wu Xianshi to gather everyone in the Shaman Tower. After a while, Wu Xianshi broke into the living room where Wu Xiangjuan was. He said in a low voice, Madam, the elites of the Shaman Tower have been gathered in the courtyard. What should we do now? Wu Xianshi had also heard about the death of Wu Taiji and Bing Hui. He was at a loss and did not know what to do. Let's go. We must leave the heaven accessing place as soon as possible. If we're late, the Shaman Tower will be doomed. Wu Xiangjuan hurried out of the living room and saw dozens of experts of the sorcerer tribe standing in the courtyard. They were the most elite experts of the sorcerer tribe and represented the overall strength of the Shaman Tower. Wu Xianshi came to Wu Xiangjuan's side and said solemnly, Madam, I understand. There's no time to lose. Let's leave now. As soon as Wu Xianshi finished speaking, a terrifying gang wind swept over from the sky. Soon after, he was dumbfounded to find that a gigantic purple palm had descended from the sky, instantly enveloping the dozens of Earth elites in the courtyard. The elites of the Shaman Tower did not even have time to scream before they were smashed into powder by the purple palm. Leave? Where do you think you're going? Where can you go? An indifferent voice slowly came from outside. Immediately, Wu Xianshi and Wu Xiangjuan were horrified to see a young man slowly descend from mid-air into the ruined courtyard. Behind the young man was a green-haired mummy. You're Zhuan? Wu Xiangjuan pointed at the young man and asked in a shrill voice. That's me. Zhuan grinned. In the eyes of Wu Xiangjuan and Wu Xianshi, his smile was full of coldness. Back then, didn't your wizard tower come looking for me again and again? Now I, Zhuan, have come to you. Shouldn't you be happy? Zhuan said flatly. Wu Xiangjuan laughed dryly and said, Taoist Zhua, maybe we have some misunderstanding. We didn't have much to do with the previous hunting of you. We were just following orders and had no choice. Wu Xianshi nodded like a chick pecking at rice. I don't care if you were following orders or acting alone. It has nothing to do with me. When I, Zhuan, was being hunted by the Shaman Tower, I swore that one day I would destroy the Shaman Tower. Today it's time for me to fulfill my wish. At this point, the green-haired mummy behind Zhuan suddenly rushed towards Wu Xiangjuan and Wu Xianshi. Wu Xianshi's eyes flashed fiercely. He roared and his muscles bulged. He pounced forward and fought with the green-haired mummy. Unfortunately, the difference between Wu Xianshi and the green-haired mummy was too great. In just one move, the green-haired mummy punched through his head and he died tragically on the spot. Wu Xiangjuan took the opportunity to crush the ground escape talisman that she had taken out earlier. She turned into a beam of light and disappeared on the spot. But at the instant that Wu Xiangjuan fled, Zhuan had already withdrawn a strand of soul sword insight and fled through the sky. In less than 3 breaths, Wu Xiangjuan's scream could be heard in midair. Not far away in midair, Wu Xiangjuan's corpse fell from the sky. Master, there are still many sorcerer tribe cultivators in the Shaman Tower. What do you plan to do with them? The green-haired mummy asked. I'll burn the Shaman Tower with fire. We don't have to care about the ordinary sorcerer tribe cultivators. The elites of the Shaman Tower are all dead. The Shaman Tower only exists in name now. Zhuan said calmly. The green-haired mummy nodded and spat out a strange green fire. It lit up the entire area of the Shaman Tower. Master, where do we go next? Zhuan and the green-haired mummy hovered in midair and looked at the Shaman Tower that was drowned in a sea of green fire. Chapter 36:21. Have you heard? The Shaman Tower on Desolate Street was completely destroyed, and even the encampment was burned down. Aren't you a little too ill-informed? This happened a month ago. Not only the Shaman Tower, the Corpse Ghost race, the Space-Time Beast race, the Dragon race, the Black Tiger race, the Phoenix people, and the Merman race were all destroyed as well. Oh my God, what's going on? I just came out of seclusion. How did such a big thing happen? Who is it that is so powerful? It's Lord Zhuan. A month ago, Wu Taiji and Bing Hui brought an army of outsiders to Sanqing Street aggressively. Both of them died in the hands of Lord Zhuan. After that, Lord Zhuan barged into Desolate Street alone and destroyed the encampment of the races that surrounded him back then. The entire Sanqing Street was crazily spreading Zhuan's deeds. All the human cultivators had already worshipped Zhuan as a god in their hearts. When they mentioned Zhuan, they would respectfully address him as Lord Zhua. If anyone dared to call Zhuan by his name, they would definitely be denounced and even attacked. It could be said that Zhuan was already a godlike figure in the hearts of the human cultivators. As for the outsiders on Desolate Street, they were also completely convinced by Zhuan. A month ago, Zhuan barged into Desolate Street alone and no one could stop him. With Zhuan's strength, he could destroy the entire Desolate Street alone. However, he did not. Instead, he only dealt with the races that had hunted him down back then. He did not touch the rest of the outsiders. Even the cultivators of the nine-tailed fox race, moon wolf race, and giant turtle race who barged into Sanqing Street, as well as the 3 patriarchs, were all released. His actions won him the favor of many of the non-human cultivators in the Desolation Street. After the 3 patriarchs of the nine-tailed fox race, moon wolf race, and giant turtle race returned to Desolate Street, They strictly ordered the foreign cultivators not to be disrespectful to the human cultivators on San Chin Street in the future. Now that Zhuowen had appeared in the human race, he was no longer someone the sorcerer tribe could afford to offend. As the main character of this incident, Zhuowen was sitting cross-legged in the main hall of the Palace of Three Purities. The Three Purities Palace had been turned into ruins during the battle between Zhuowen and Bing Hui. The Three Purities Palace had been rebuilt by the Three Purities and the Black King. A picture scroll floated in front of Zhuowen. Within the picture scroll was a budding green lotus. On the other hand, Zhuowen's eyes were slightly closed as a green lotus shadow appeared between his eyebrows. As the green lotus became more and more solid, the spirit in his glabella became more and more powerful. When the green lotus at the center of Zhuowen's eyebrows fully bloomed, the 12 green lotuses on the green lotus withered, and all of them entered the center of Zhuowen's eyebrows. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying aura gushed out from between Zhuowen's eyebrows. The entire main hall was enveloped by this aura. It actually started to tremble slightly, as if it was afraid. Zhuowen opened his eyes abruptly. His eyes were filled with a blazing green light. This green lotus visualization diagram is really amazing. It's a cultivation technique that's completely made for the spirit. Zhuowen put away the green lotus visualization diagram that was floating in front of him. His eyes were filled with excitement. The green lotus visualization diagram was divided into 3 levels. If an ordinary cultivator cultivated the green lotus visualization diagram to the highest level, which was the 3rd level, then their spirit would be able to reach the heaven-crushing 3rd change. In this 1 month, Zhuowen almost forgot to eat and sleep to cultivate the green lotus visualization diagram. What he did not expect was that when he cultivated according to the green lotus visualization diagram and visualized the green lotus in his spirit, he actually managed to succeed easily. Moreover, his progress was extremely fast. In just 3 days, he successfully broke through the 1st level. Today, he broke through the 2nd level, and his spirit also successfully went from the peak of the heaven-crushing 1st change to the heaven-crushing 2nd change. He had only cultivated for a month, and he easily broke through to the 2nd level. This speed was a little shocking. However, after Zhuowen calmed down, he knew that the reason why his progress was so fast was probably because his spirit was strong to begin with. The green lotus visualization diagram was made for cultivators who had just broken through to the heaven-crushing 3rd change. In addition, Zhuowen's soul was very special. It contained the mysterious power of the primordial era, which was why his cultivation was so abnormally fast. After breaking through to the 2nd level of the green lotus visualization diagram, Zhuowen did not continue cultivating. The first 2 levels of the green lotus visualization diagram were relatively simple, but the 3rd level was much more difficult. Zhuowen estimated that if he wanted to successfully cultivate the 3rd level, it would take at least 3 months to half a year. He still had some things to take care of. Moreover, he still had an appointment with Dongwang Tai and Su Yuan, so he did not have much time to waste. Zhuowen took out a spirit ring from the Great World, and his eyes narrowed as he carefully examined it. He had obtained this spirit ring from Bing Hui, and he had not opened it yet. Bing Hui is a being from the 100 domains, after all, so he must have a lot of good stuff on him. Zhuowen's eyes burned. With his current level of formation Dao, it was not difficult for him to open the restrictions on the spirit ring. After opening the spirit ring, he scanned it with his divine sense, and his eyes instantly became much more fervent. There were more chaos crystals in Bing Hui's spirit ring than the owner of the golden coffin. There were close to 1,000 of them. Aside from that, Zhuowen also found several heaven-crushing grade 1 godly medicines. What surprised Zhuowen the most was that Zhuowen actually found a jade slip in Bing Hui's spirit ring. This jade slip recorded a heaven-crushing grade pill recipe. This pill recipe was called the 7 Lives Qi Recovery Pill, and it was a heaven-crushing grade 1 godly pill. The main ingredient of the 7 Lives Qi Recovery Pill could quickly recover, shatter divine power, and it also had a certain healing effect. This pill was not only effective for first heaven-crushing cultivators, but it was also quite useful for second heaven-crushing cultivators. What surprised Yuan even more was that Bing Hui just so happened to have the main ingredient of the 7 Lives Qi recovery pill in his spirit ring. In fact, he had even prepared some supplementary godly medicines. It was clear that Bing Hui had prepared all of this in order to ask a certain alchemist to refine the 7 Lives Qi recovery pill. However, Bing Hui had died at Yuan's hands in the end, so he had no chance to use these godly medicines. Yuan's consciousness had already evolved to the second heaven-crushing grade, and his formation Dao and alchemy Dao skills had also reached the heaven-crushing grade. He had indeed successfully broken through to the next level in formation Dao, but his alchemy Dao was hindered by the fact that he did not have a heaven-crushing grade pill recipe. Thus, Yuan had not been able to break through to the next level. However, now that he had obtained the pill recipe for the 7 Lives Qi recovery pill, he would be able to successfully refine a heaven-crushing grade divine pill and become a heaven-crushing grade 1 alchemist. Yuan was not in a hurry to refine the pill. Instead, he continued to look through Bing Hui's spirit ring. In Bing Hui's spirit ring, Yuan discovered that aside from the most common cultivation method, the extreme purple spirit technique, he also discovered 2 heaven-crushing grade divine abilities. These 2 divine abilities were the ethereal ice saber and the shadowless snow. Yuan was not unfamiliar with the ethereal ice saber. Bing Hui had used this ice saber during his battle with him. This ice saber was extremely elusive and difficult to guard against. In the end, Yuan had to use all of his power to barely block this ice saber. This was a testament to the power of this ice saber. Chapter 36:22. It wasn't difficult for Yuan to learn these 2 divine abilities. However, Yuan didn't want to copy these 2 divine abilities. His soul had fused with the primordial stone, and his comprehension had reached an unprecedented level. Moreover, he had created the primordial technique on the basis of the primordial technique. It was a heaven-defying technique that could allow one to cultivate shattering divine power before breaking the heavens. Therefore, he didn't plan to cultivate the ethereal ice blade and traceless snow. Instead, he planned to use these 2 divine abilities as reference to create a divine ability that was truly suitable for him. He had a premonition that this search for primordial providence might be extremely dangerous. He had to improve himself as soon as possible before that. Let's refine the 7 Lives recovery pill first. Yuan took a deep breath and summoned the Emperor Pill Furnace. He ignited the divine fire and prepared to refine the 7 Lives recovery pill. He knew that creating a divine ability wasn't an easy task. It would definitely take a lot of time. On the contrary, refining the heaven-breaking level 1 divine pill would be faster. Therefore, he planned to improve his alchemy skills first. While Yuan was focused on refining pills in the 100 Outer Realms, in the alternate ghost realm where the alternate ghost tribe was located, there was an endless area of ice and snow. In this area, there was constant wind and snow all year round. It was desolate and uninhabited. There was only a huge palace that stood in the depths of the snowstorm. This area of ice and snow and the palace could be said to be a forbidden area in the alternate ghost realm. Ordinary people were not qualified to approach it all. This was because this was the palace of the Ice Demon King, one of the 3 kings of the alternate ghost tribe. Inside the palace, in the huge main hall, a figure slowly walked in from outside the door. This was a young man with a golden vertical mark between his eyebrows. The young man slowly walked to the center of the main hall and looked respectfully at the man in ice armor standing in front of him. He knelt on one knee and said in a deep voice, "Disciple, Sakyamuni greets Master." "Sure, Tian. Do you know why I suddenly summoned you?" The man didn't turn around. Instead, he spoke indifferently. His voice was low and magnetic. Sakyamuni's eyes flickered. He lowered his head and said, "Disciple doesn't know. Bing Hui has left the palace these few days. Do you know where he went?" The man asked indifferently. Sakyamuni's pupils shrank. He lowered his head and said, "I'm not sure. I only just found out that senior brother left the palace. Maybe he went out to meet with friends. At this moment, the ice-armored man slowly turned around. This was a middle-aged man with a goatee, but his face was so pale that he didn't seem human. Upon closer inspection, his skin was crystal clear, as if it had been carved out of ice. He was the master of this palace, and also the famous Ice Fiend King of the other ghost realm. It's just a gathering. Do you think Bing Hui would lose his life? His life, Jade, has been shattered. The Ice Fiend King's gaze became extremely stern. He stared coldly at Sakyamuni. What? Senior brother? Sakura abruptly raised his head and said in disbelief, "Tell me the truth. Where did Bing Hui go?" The Ice Fiend King asked coldly. Sakyamuni took a deep breath and no longer concealed anything, telling him about how Bing Hui had gone to Wandering Starry Sky to kill Zhuowen. Oh, he killed your enemy in the lower realm? And he died in the lower realm. The Ice Fiend King frowned. Logically speaking, even if Bing Hui's cultivation was suppressed to the peak of the fifth blight, there shouldn't be anyone in the lower realm that could be his opponent. But he actually died. The Ice Fiend monarch muttered to himself in confusion. Master, it must be that Zhuowen. That Zhuowen obtained the inheritance of the Pangu clan in the lower realm. He's not an ordinary person. Senior brother must have died in his hands. Master, you must avenge senior brother. Sakyamuni said hatefully. Haha, the Pangu clan has already been destroyed. The place you came from is called Wandering Starry Sky. It's just the most ordinary member of the Pangu clan. It hasn't even broken through the heavens. How can such a trashy inheritance be called extraordinary? The Ice Fiend King sneered. His eyes were filled with disdain. Sakyamuni was startled. Then what about senior brother Bing Hui's revenge? You were the one who caused this, so naturally, you have to deal with it. Whether it's his talent or his inheritance, he's far inferior to you. When he breaks through the heavens and comes to the 100 territories, you should personally deal with him. At that time, the gap between the two of you will be very big. He's just an ant in your eyes. Speaking up to here, the Ice Fiend King's eyes were filled with pride. Sure, Tian, you're in a new world now, not the narrow world at the bottom of the well where you were before. In the future, you'll become the most outstanding genius of the other ghost realm, and even the most dazzling rising star of the 100 territories. Your world will only become bigger and bigger. Broaden your horizons. Don't stick to the starry sky of the lower realms that you used to live in. You're no longer in the same world as them. Sakyamuni pondered for a moment before a look of realization appeared on his face. The Ice Fiend King was right. He had the undying Tao root, and his talent was extraordinary. Moreover, his Tao root had the abnormal ability to continuously evolve. In addition, the Ice Fiend King had nurtured him wholeheartedly. In the future, he was destined to shock the 100 territories. In his eyes, Zhuowen, who was extremely difficult to deal with in the past, was just a frog at the bottom of a well. He was no longer comparable to him. Master, you're right. I understand. Sakyamuni said respectfully. The Ice Fiend King nodded and said, Then go back and continue cultivating. When your cultivation reaches the heaven-breaking third transformation, you'll be qualified to leave the ice domain and travel. Sakyamuni nodded heavily and left the palace. After Sakyamuni left the palace, the Ice Fiend King's eyes gradually turned cold. He said to a hidden person, Pay attention to the movements of that ant called Zhuowen at all times. If that kid succeeds in breaking through the heavens and enters the 100 territories through the primordial path, then make a move and kill that kid in advance. As soon as the Ice Fiend King finished speaking, the sound of a figure moving came from the dark. Obviously, the person in the dark had received his orders and left. Half a year later, a strange phenomenon suddenly appeared in the sky above Sanqing Mountain. A terrifying lightning tribulation descended. All the cultivators on Sanqing Street gathered their gazes in the sky above Sanqing Mountain. They were all stunned to find that the lightning tribulation was not caused by a cultivator, but by a pill furnace. To be more precise, it was the divine pills in the pill furnace. What kind of divine pill can cause lightning tribulation to descend from the heavens? Could it be the legendary heaven-breaking divine pill? All the cultivators on Sansheen Street discussed spiritedly. However, the lightning tribulation came quickly and left quickly. It was forcefully blocked by a figure, and this figure was no stranger to everyone. It was Zhuowen. 3 pure ones, the Black King, Lian Meng, and the others were also alarmed by the lightning tribulation. They walked out of the side hall and were all stunned when they saw the furnace of divine pills. Zhuowen is refined, a heaven-breaking divine pellet. 3 pure ones revealed a bitter smile as he muttered to himself. After Zhuowen put away the pill furnace, he landed not far from 3 pure ones and the others in high spirits. The green-furred mummy had already come out and hurried to Zhuowen's side like a loyal dog. Chapter 36-23. In the chaotic starry sky outside the heaven-accessing place, a stream of light flashed past and stopped at the edge of the chaotic starry sky. It was a gravel area full of meteorites. Zhuowen put away the space-time roulette and chose the largest meteorite in the gravel area. He punched a huge hole in the center of the meteorite and used array techniques to set up a temporary cave residence in the hole. He planned to comprehend the traceless snow and the ethereal ice saber in this temporary cave residence. Of course, his main purpose was not to cultivate these 2 divine powers, but to integrate them into the primordial chant by combining them with the fate space-time kill. The primordial chant was a simplified version of the primitive primordial chant. When he broke through the heaven-breaking realm in the future, the power of the primordial chant would be transformed into the primitive primordial chant. If he created his own divine powers and integrated them into the primordial chant, the divine powers would not be independent, but closely related to the primitive primordial chant. In layman's terms, the level and power of the divine powers he created in the future would skyrocket as he cultivated the primitive primordial chant. After preparing the cave residence, Zhuowen immediately went into seclusion and began to use the power of understanding brought by the primitive primordial stone in his divine soul to deduce new divine powers by combining the 2 divine powers, the primordial chant and the fate space-time kill. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. On this day, a strange and mysterious power surged in the deepest part of the natural mode in the starry sky. In the deepest part, at the edge of the chaotic starry sky, a stream of light flew out from the depths of the chaotic starry sky. The light faded, and the main body of the stream of light turned out to be an exquisite and gorgeous divine ship. On the deck of the divine ship stood 2 figures, a man and a woman. The man was handsome and tall, and the woman was as beautiful as a flower. If one only looked at their appearance, they would be a rare handsome man and a beautiful woman, even in the human clan. However, the strange thing was that the 2 of them were not humans. Their upper bodies were exactly the same as humans, but their lower bodies had snake tails. If Zhuowen saw the 2 of them, he would definitely be able to recognize them as members of the Nuwa clan. He had once found Nuwa's physical body in the Nightmare Abyss. The latter's form was exactly the same as the stone statues in the Nightmare Abyss. This was a characteristic of the Nuwa clan's bloodline. Junior sister, we should have arrived. The coordinates that Luo Hong gave us are this starry sky. On the deck, a bright light flashed in the eyes of the handsome man, who was in a good mood. I truly didn't expect that Falling Rainbow's luck would be so good that she would be able to find a perfect desireless. The desireless ones are much harder to succeed than the heartless ones. A perfect desireless one can pass through the heartless one's trial and finally transform. The woman said with a smile. The man nodded and said, Falling Rainbow can be considered a great merit this time. We can also gain a lot of benefits. I'll contact Luo Hong and have him bring people out. As he spoke, the man pointed his sword finger at his glabella. A dim light appeared between his eyebrows, as if he was communicating with something. Soon, the man opened his eyes again, but but his expression became somewhat unsightly. "Senior brother, what's wrong?" When the woman saw the man's expression, she frowned and asked. "Falling Rainbow's aura has disappeared. She's fallen." The man's eyes surged with killing intent, and he suppressed his voice as he spoke. "What? Who is it? Who actually dared to spoil our Nuwa clan's plans and even dared to kill our clansmen?" The woman said with shock and fury. "It should be a native of this starry sky. When Falling Rainbow sent us a message earlier, she said that she was attacked by desireless ones, and only a trace of her divine soul was left. She's too weak. Any living being with a slightly stronger strength in this starry sky can obliterate the trace of her divine soul that was left. Falling Rainbow was too careless and was discovered by someone, so..." The man frowned slightly, but his expression wasn't very good. He'd obtained news of Falling Rainbow with great difficulty, and he'd specially hid it from the elders and hurried over here just to take all the credit for himself. Now that Falling Rainbow had fallen, the clues could be considered to have been completely cut off. "Senior brother, without Falling Rainbow's guidance, we don't know who the desireless ones are." The woman seemed to be slightly anxious as she spoke. The man's eyes flickered, and he took out a fragrant sachet from his spirit ring and said, "The only way now is to use this desireless fragrant sachet. This desireless fragrant sachet usually looks like an ordinary fragrant sachet, but once you get within 1,000 miles of the desireless ones, this fragrant sachet will emit a strange fragrance. Moreover, the closer you get to the desireless ones, the stronger the fragrance will be." The woman's beautiful eyes lit up, and she said with a sweet smile, "As expected of senior brother, you actually prepared such a trick. It's just that we don't have any treasures that can suppress our realms, so I'm afraid we won't be able to enter this starry sky of the lower realms. No matter. Senior brother has his own ways." The corners of the man's mouth curled into a smile. Suddenly, his right hand grabbed at the void. An invisible hand stretched out of the divine ship, and a series of miserable shrieks came from outside the ship. Then, a figure was unceremoniously grabbed by the man's hand and thrown onto the deck. On the deck, a humanoid mechanical life was thrown onto the ground by the man, and it was constantly struggling and twitching in pain. "Looks like you've been secretly observing us for a long time," the man said indifferently. The humanoid mechanical life endured the pain, hurriedly stood up, knelt in front of the man, and kowtowed continuously, saying, "Sir, this lowly one didn't do it on purpose. I've been hiding here since a long time ago." "Oh? You don't seem to be a life formed from this starry sky, right? Then why have you been hiding here all this time?" the man asked curiously. The two of them had obtained a lot of information from Luo Hong, and they knew that most of the life forms in the starry sky were humans and foreign races. There was no such existence of a mechanical life like this. "This lowly one is from the golden corner starry sky. The reason I've been hiding here is mainly to..." The humanoid mechanical life revealed the golden corner starry sky's intention to invade the starry sky in full detail. The humanoid mechanical life knew very well that the two people in front of it were definitely heaven breakers from the 100 domains outside the realm. It really didn't dare to deceive such existences in the slightest. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Oh, logically speaking, the golden corner starry sky is much more powerful than the starry sky. Why haven't you sent an army to occupy this starry sky? The man asked with interest. The humanoid mechanical life smiled bitterly. It's not that we don't want to, but the large-scale teleportation formation from the golden corner starry sky to the starry sky hasn't been completed yet. The golden corner starry sky's army can't pass at all. As the vanguard, I was sent here to constantly monitor the movements of the starry sky so that we can prepare for an all-out attack on the starry sky in the future. Chapter 36:24. The man and woman looked at each other with a smile on their faces. The great formation of this border is not worth mentioning to me. As he spoke, The man casually grabbed, and the great formation with light flowing at the border was torn apart. Who is it? How dare you tear apart the great formation here? After the great formation was broken, a huge mechanical black dragon roared out from the border and instantly appeared in front of the divine ship. Curse Yin, it really is you. During this period of time, I always felt that something was spying on me. You are really lurking in the dark. The black dragon first glanced at the humanoid mechanical life and snorted coldly. Then, it turned its gaze to the man and woman on the divine ship with a look of fear in its eyes. It could faintly feel that the strength of this man and woman was not simple. It actually made it shudder. Both of you, presumably, you are not from the Golden Corner Starry Sky. This is a private matter of the Golden Corner Starry Sky. I hope you two will not interfere. The black dragon said to the man and woman on the divine ship in a deep voice. Noisy, the man waved his hand impatiently. Suddenly, the black dragon was directly knocked to the ground by an invisible force. Immediately afterward, the humanoid mechanical life discovered that the black dragon twitched on the ground for a while. Then, its huge body suddenly petrified and then shattered into countless pieces. Seeing this scene, the humanoid mechanical life named Curse Yin became more and more fearful. He looked at the man and woman on the deck with more and more awe. I've already helped you get rid of the great formation and the ants that are in the way. Now, I have one thing that I need your help with. I think you should know how to repay kindness. The man looked at Curse Yin with a smile. The latter trembled all over and quickly smiled. Sir, please tell me. I will definitely die 1,000 times. Take this sachet and enter the starry sky. Find me a woman who can make this sachet emit a strange fragrance. Once you find her, send me a message and tell us the woman's appearance, aura, and location. The man handed the sachet to Curse Yin. Curse Yin was startled. He did not expect the man to give him such a simple task. He just had to enter the starry sky to find someone. Sir, if I can successfully find the person you're looking for, can you help our Golden Corner Starry Sky perfect the teleportation array? Zhou Yin suddenly knelt on the ground and asked. The man looked at Zhou Yin silently, pondered for a moment, and nodded. If you're lucky enough to fulfill your mission, I can help you perfect the teleportation array in Golden Corner Starry Sky. However, I have another condition. When your Golden Universe Starry Sky army invades the hovering Starry Sky, capture the person I'm looking for alive and bring him to me. Zhou Yin chuckled and said, Your Excellency, you don't have to be so troublesome. When I find this person, I can personally capture him and offer him to Your Excellency. The man sneered. As far as I know, the person I'm looking for has a 5th blight cultivator by his side. Are you sure you can capture this person alive and not be captured alive? Curse Yin quickly shut his mouth and stopped talking completely. What a joke! His cultivation was only at the late stage of the 3rd Heaven's Blight. The difference between him and the 5th Heaven's Blight was too great. If he really wanted to capture them, how would he be able to return alive? Go! Your mission is to find the woman I want you to find. As for capturing this woman, I still have to rely on the strength of your Golden Corner Starry Sky. The man said faintly. Curse Yin cupped his hands to the man and woman, jumped off the divine ship, and walked step by step to the border. When he completely entered the hovering starry sky, his appearance completely changed, and he became an ordinary middle-aged man. Senior brother, do you think this guy is reliable? The woman looked at Curse Yin's back and frowned slightly. As long as my sachet is reliable, it's fine. With my sachet, this person will definitely find it. We just need to wait and see. The man smiled faintly. Boom! At the edge of the chaotic starry sky in the heaven-accessing realm, a gravel area burst open, and the surrounding meteorites all burst into powder, forming a blazing halo. In the blazing halo, a figure slowly walked out of it. Strangely, as this person walked, purple snow began to fall within a radius of 10,000 miles. In the purple snow within 10,000 miles, it was like a self-sealed world. This person walked in the purple snow, strolling leisurely. His figure was like a ghost, constantly flickering and changing directions. His speed was as fast as purple lightning, dazzling people. Zhuowen stopped in his tracks and looked at the purple snow around him. His eyes shone with excitement. In the past 5 years, he had been comprehending the two great magic powers all the time, trying to combine them with the power of the primordial mantra. Hard work paid off, and he succeeded. This magic power was a brand new magic power he created by combining the magic power Traceless Snow with the primordial mantra. Whether in power or speed, it was far superior to Traceless Snow. What was even rarer was that the power of this magic power was enhanced with the primordial mantra, and it could grow. He named this magic power Primordial Purple Snow. He also successfully integrated the Destiny Space-Time Kill and the Ethereal Ice Blade into the primordial mantra, creating a new and more powerful magic power. The magic power created by the combination of the Destiny Space-Time Kill and the primordial mantra was named Primordial Life Severing. The biggest feature of Primordial Life Severing was that when facing an enemy, it could restrain the enemy's destiny. If it was powerful enough, it could sever the enemy's destiny without anyone noticing, causing the enemy to die on the spot. As for the third ability, it was a combination of the primordial chant and the ethereal ice blade. The newly formed ice blade was named Primordial Floating Blade by Zhuowen. Among the three great magic powers, Primordial Purple Snow focused on speed, Primordial Life Severing focused on calculation, and Primordial Flying Blade focused on attacking and killing. With these three great divine abilities in hand, Zhuowen's strength could unleash 200% of its power. Primordial Flying Blade. Zhuowen suddenly stomped his feet in the air, and the purple snow around him became more violent. He formed hand seals with both hands, and instantly, a purple blade without a handle formed in front of him. The purple blade disappeared in the blink of an eye and appeared at the edge of the purple snow. It flickered again and appeared at the other end of the purple snow. Whether it was speed or power, this purple blade was stronger than the ethereal ice blade. The purple blade kept flashing around him, and he suddenly grabbed the air with both hands. Primordial Life Severing. A purple tide gushed out from the void, forming a huge hand that looked like his real arm. It grabbed at the void in front of him, and the time and space in the void seemed to be restrained, coming to a complete standstill. Destiny was more mysterious than time and space. This move of his could even restrain the river of destiny in the void. Of course, this magic power was still too weak, and it could only be restrained for a short period of time. Not long after, the might caused by the three great abilities, Violet Snow, Floating Blade, and Life Severing, had completely disappeared, whereas Zhuowen was like an ordinary young man, standing on a piece of rock. Now, I'm invincible in the universe, and everyone knows about me. Every living being in the universe knows about me, Zhuowen. Chapter 36:25. When Zhuowen returned to the Three Purities Palace, Taoist Three Purities, the Black King, and the others all came out to greet him, standing respectfully in front of Zhuowen. Especially the Three Purities, he was the most nervous. Since the Heavenly Armor Star, he had been scheming against Zhuowen. It could be said that Zhuowen was the most crucial step in his plan to break the heavens. However, Zhuowen's growth was too fast, and his strength was now far beyond his. What was worse was that Zhuowen knew all about his plans, and it was reasonable for him to kill him. Ryuka will be born again, and the Xianmi heavenly domain will be managed by me. Ryuka, do you have any objections? Zhuowen looked at the Three Purities and asked. The Three Purities hurriedly cupped his hands and said, Lord Zhuo is now the savior of our wandering starry sky. As long as you say the word, not to mention the Xianmi heavenly domain, even the heaven accessing place will be at your disposal. Zhuowen waved his hand and said, Forget about the heaven accessing place. I only want the Xianmi heavenly domain, and I want you to swear that you will not touch the Xianmi heavenly domain in the future. Otherwise, I will be destroyed by the heavens and the earth. The Three Purities and the Black King looked at each other, but they did not dare to disobey Zhuowen. They hurriedly swore to the heavenly Tao. Zhuowen saw that the three purities and the Black King were so tactful and could not help but nod with satisfaction. "Have you heard of the Golden Corner Starry Sky?" Zhuowen suddenly asked. The three purities and the Black King were stunned and shook their heads. Zhuowen pondered for a moment, then told them everything that had happened in the depths of the heavenly moat. The three purities and the Black King turned pale with fright after hearing it, especially when they heard that the Golden Corner Starry Sky was going to attack their wandering starry sky, which made them both shocked and angry. Don't have any wishful thinking. The Golden Corner Starry Sky is much more powerful than our starry sky, and there are many more fifth blight powerhouses than us. And I also heard that there were several heaven-breaking realm powerhouses in the Golden Corner Starry Sky. However, after these heaven-breaking realm elites broke through, they went to the 100 outer realms to pursue an even higher realm. Zhuowen said indifferently. Three pure ones, and the Black King smiled bitterly, and then looked at Zhuowen expectantly. "Master Zhuo, if Golden Corner Starry Sky really invades our starry sky, will you intervene?" "Don't worry. I will definitely make a move. However, you have to take precautions early. Remember to inform the desolate street. The heaven-accessing place must unite this time. The Golden Starry Sky is not simple. Also, remember to send people to guard the heavenly moat and monitor the movements there. If they really attack, we will be prepared." After saying that, Zhuowen left Sanqing Street. Three pure ones and the Black King wanted Zhuowen to stay and guard the heaven-accessing place. But seeing that Zhuowen had already made up his mind, he didn't dare to ask him to stay. After leaving the heaven-accessing place, Zhuowen went straight to the Xianmi heavenly domain. If he wanted to head to the demon region, he would have to pass through the Xianmi heavenly region. In the Eastern Wei territory of the Xianmi heavenly domain, Zhuowen found a quiet and vast valley. He arranged the heaven-breaking level 1 trap and kill array around the valley. In the blink of an eye, the originally picturesque valley was shrouded in a thick fog. With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuowen held a bronze formation flag in his hand. This formation flag was the core of the formation. It was used to control the opening and closing of the formation, as well as its power. With this formation, almost no one in this starry sky could break into the valley. After doing this, Zhuowen moved all the Ryuka people from the macro world to the valley. Long Xiaodian, Feng Xiao, and all the other Ryuka people knew about the migration of the Ryuka people. Therefore, when Zhuowen moved all of them to the strange valley, they were not surprised. On the contrary, they were all full of excitement. They had stayed in the macro world for a long time and hadn't been in contact with the outside world for too long. Brother Zhuo, Crepe Myrtle Star followed Feng Xiao and Long Xiaodian. He took the initiative to greet Zhuowen. After leaving the primitive heavenly domain, Crepe Myrtle Star basically stayed in Zhuowen's macro world to cultivate. Not long after he came out of seclusion, he learned that the Ryuka people were moving to the Xianmi heavenly domain. He was a little excited. "Brother Crepe Myrtle, congratulations. You've already broken through, right? You're not far from the first blight." Zhuowen sized up Crepe Myrtle Star and immediately saw that his cultivation had reached the peak of the Master of Heaven. When he first entered the macro world, his cultivation was at the late stage of the Master of Heaven. Now, not only had he advanced to the peak of the Master of Heaven, he could see that Crepe Myrtle Star was about to attract the Blight Tribulation. As long as he successfully passed the Blight Tribulation, his cultivation would break through again and advance to the first Blight. It's all thanks to the surging energy in your macro world, Brother Zhuo. Otherwise, my cultivation wouldn't be so fast. I wonder how your cultivation is now, Brother Zhuo. Crepe Myrtle Star looked at Zhuowen with a trace of competition in his eyes. He had been in seclusion all this time, so he didn't know much about Zhuowen's situation outside. He thought that Zhuowen's cultivation was at most around the first blight and that he wouldn't be much stronger than him. Moreover, he thought that with the inheritance of the undying bird, his strength was stronger than his cultivation. If he fought with Zhuowen, Zhuowen might not be his match. Back then, Zhuowen had surpassed him in strength, which made him quite depressed. This time, he had earned back his face. Zhuowen smiled embarrassedly, but didn't answer. If he told the truth, wouldn't it be a blow to Crepe Myrtle Star? Brother Zhua, why are you hemming and hawing? I know your talent isn't inferior to mine, and your cultivation isn't much weaker than mine either. Seeing Zhua Wen's expression, Myrtle Star Monarch felt somewhat pleased and asked, "You're just a little guy who hasn't even reached the first blight, yet you want to compare cultivation with my master? Let me tell you, my master can even kill Wu Taiji of the Wilderness Street with a single slap. Even Taoist 3 Purities has to respectfully call him Lord in front of him." Suddenly, the green-furred corpse behind Zhuowen glared at Crepe Myrtle Star, feeling that Crepe Myrtle Star didn't know the rules. In his heart, who was Zhuowen? How could he have the time to compare cultivation with you? Moreover, the two couldn't be compared. Crepe Myrtle Star's smile froze. He recognized the green-furred corpse. Back in Witch God City, this green-furred corpse had beaten Zhuowen until he fled in a sorry state and almost killed Zhuowen. He knew very well that this green-furred corpse was definitely a half-step heaven-breaking realm expert. Its strength was ridiculously powerful. But now, this guy was actually following behind Zhuowen like a servant. Crepe Myrtle Star wasn't stupid. He could naturally tell that the master the green-furred corpse mentioned was Zhuowen. And to be able to make an expert like the green-furred corpse's master, it was enough to see how powerful Zhuowen was at the moment. In particular, the green-furred corpse's words completely shocked Crepe Myrtle Star. Chapter 36:26. Get down. Who allowed you to speak? Zhuowen shouted sternly. The green-haired mummy drooped its head and did not dare to speak. It seems that I have been looking at the sky from the bottom of the well. It turns out that Brother Zhua is already so strong. Purple Star Sovereign said with a wry smile. Zhuo Wen, on the other hand, was speechless. It was truly too awkward. Fortunately, Purple Star Sovereign did not care. He broke the awkwardness and chatted with Zhuowen, Feng Xiao, and Long Xiaotian. There was no disappointment on his face. Father, I'll leave these 9 Ho-E Divine Arrows and Ho-E Divine Bow to you. These divine weapons are extremely powerful and can kill the Tongtian Master. Zhuowen took out the Ho-E Divine Bow and Ho-E Divine Arrows and solemnly handed them to Long Xiaotian. These divine weapons have been with him for a long time. For a long time, they were his trump cards and were extremely powerful. However, his strength had increased too quickly. Thus, the Ho-E Divine Bow and Ho-E Divine Arrow were of little value to him. Therefore, he plans to give them to Long Xiaotian. Wen, you know that I don't like to use weapons like bows and arrows. Long Xiaotian took the Ho-E Divine Bow and Ho-E Divine Arrows and said helplessly. He naturally knows that the Ho-E Divine Bow and Ho-E Divine Arrows were once Zhuowen's trump cards. They are very powerful divine weapons. It's okay. Father can help me find its fated person, Zhuowen said with a smile. After that, Zhuowen met many of the Long family's acquaintances one by one and chatted with them. Brother Zhua, will I bring you any trouble? Moyan Wushang walked in front of Zhuowen and asked in a low voice. Zhuowen stroked her hair and said with a smile, I've never been afraid of trouble. If trouble comes to me, I'll break it. You don't have to worry. Moyan Wushang suddenly hugged Zhuowen. He buried his head in Zhuowen's chest and said softly, Brother Zhuowen, thank you for being so good to me. Zhuowen gently hugged Moyan Wushang and said, Wushang, don't worry. With me here, no one can touch you. As long as you have confidence in me, I will fight for a bright future for you. Zhuowen stayed in the valley for more than a month. When the Ryuka had settled down, he waved goodbye to the Ryuka. He had to return to the demon realm and fulfill his promise with Dongwang Tai and Su Yuan. When the crowd saw Zhuowen leave the valley, they were all reluctant to part with him. Moyan Wushang stood at the entrance of the valley until Zhuowen's figure disappeared from her sight. Then she slowly turned around. Her beautiful eyes were filled with determination. Big Brother Zhua, I won't let you shoulder everything alone. I'll share the burden with you. Moyan Wushang clenched her fist. In her palm, there was a transparent bead. Looking carefully, the inside of the bead was filled with white fog. In the depths of the fog, there was a faintly discernible passage. It was a very strange bead. When Zhuan arrived at the outer part of the Xianmi heavenly domain, he stopped and his eyes flashed. Ever since he defeated Black Dragon in the heavenly moat, Black Dragon had been guarding the depths of the heavenly moat to prevent any sudden movements. But when he arrived at the heavenly moat, he realized that something was wrong. Because when he sent Black Dragon a message and was about to ask him about the situation in the depths of the heavenly moat, Black Dragon did not reply. Did something happen? Zhuan's face did not look good. He knew that Black Dragon would never not reply to him, unless Black Dragon had fallen or been subdued. Thinking of this, Zhuan's face was gloomy. He slowly sank into the heavenly moat and rushed towards the depths. At the same time, his powerful divine sense spread out like a fan and radiated in all directions. The scenery around the heavenly moat was panoramic. When he arrived at the bottom of the heavenly moat, he immediately discovered that the grand formation at the intersection of the heavenly moat and the outside chaotic starry sky had already been broken open. He came to the vicinity of this pit and carefully examined it. His gaze became more and more solemn. He actually sensed a surging aura of shattered divine power from this gap in the grand formation. He knew that the guy who destroyed this grand formation was a shattering heaven realm powerhouse. Who could it be? Zhuan's face was solemn. He did not see Black Dragon here either. He knew that Black Dragon should have met with misfortune. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying energy swept over from the outside chaotic starry sky. Like an invisible giant hand, it grabbed at Zhuan. Zhuan's face changed drastically. This energy was too powerful. It actually gave him a scalp-tingling sense of danger. Zhuan used his movement technique, Primordial Purple Snow, without hesitation. Purple snow fell majestically in a radius of 10,000 miles, and Zhuan turned into a purple shadow and instantly retreated far enough away. Bam! Not long after Zhuan retreated, the place where he had been standing suddenly exploded. One giant pit after another was blasted open, and the grand formation that had been left at the edge was completely pulverized by this terrifying energy. Zhuan's expression was solemn. He could sense that this energy was extremely powerful. It was far more powerful than a shattering heaven realm cultivator. The person who had attacked him was at least a shattering heaven realm cultivator. Although Zhuan's consciousness had evolved to the shattering heaven realm, his cultivation base was far inferior. He still had a chance against a shattering heaven realm cultivator. As for a shattering heaven realm cultivator, he had no chance at all. Of course, if he suppressed his cultivation base like Bing Hui and descended into the starry sky, Zhuan could also battle him or even kill him. But outside the chaotic starry sky, he did not have much of a chance of victory. It's a shattering heaven realm divine power. May I ask which clan you're from? After Zhuan dodged that attack, exclamations of surprise traveled over from the chaotic starry sky, and Zhuan finally saw a divine ship slowly appear not far away in the chaotic starry sky. This divine ship had always been here, but it had been concealed in the chaotic starry sky, so Zhuan had not detected it. Zhuan also saw a handsome man and a beautiful woman on the deck of the divine ship. In particular, his eyes narrowed when he saw that the lower half of the man and woman's body were actually snakes. The Niwa clan? Zhuan murmured in a low voice. His voice was very soft, but the man and woman still heard him. However, the man and the woman were not surprised. Their Niwa clan's form was quite unique in the 100 domains, so it was very easy to recognize them. And this also confirmed their belief that Zhuan was most likely a cultivator from the 100 domains who had descended into the starry sky. Fellow Taoist, I'm gonna kill you from the Niwa clan, and she's my junior sister, and I see, in order to descend into the starry sky of the lower realm, you're willing to sever your own cultivation. Your courage is really commendable. I admire you. Gong Kilyu cupped his hands to Zhuan and said politely. Zhuan was stunned at first, but then he suddenly understood. He knew that after he displayed his divine power, the two of them had mistakenly thought that he was also a cultivator from the 100 domains. I just have a mission, and I had no choice but to descend here. If the two of you have nothing else to say, then I'll take my leave. Zhuowen did not want to be too entangled with the two of them. He knew that the two of them should have come to look for Moyen Wuxian. However, seeing that the two of them had not come in for a long time, it was likely that they did not have any treasures that could suppress their cultivation, and they did not want to sever their own cultivation, so they did not enter the starry sky. Although Zhuowen wanted to kill the two of them right now, he knew that they were not weak. However, he knew that these two people were not weaker than him. In fact, they were even stronger than him. With his current cultivation, he had no chance of winning against the two of them. Chapter 36:27. Does fellow Gong have anything else to say? Zhuowen looked at Gong Ji Lu indifferently and asked. Gong Ji Lu did not care about Zhuowen's attitude. Instead, he said with a smile, Fellow Taoist, I have yet to ask your name and which clan you are from. I have a secret mission, so I can't reveal it. As he spoke, Zhuowen no longer paid any attention to Gong Ji Lu. Instead, he threw a formation flag into a remote rock wall and left. There was a monitoring formation in the formation flag. Basically, everything that happened here would be transmitted to Zhuowen by the monitoring formation. Zhuowen did it very discreetly, so Gong Ji Lu and NIC did not notice it. Senior brother, this person really doesn't know what's good for him. We spoke nicely to him, but he kept a cold face. He didn't even tell us his background. He's really unreasonable. NIC's beautiful eyes suddenly turned cold, and she said with an unfriendly expression. Gong Ji Lu narrowed his eyes and said, Haha, because he's lying. This person should be a creature of this starry sky. NIC was stunned. Then, she said in disbelief, Senior brother, are you joking? Although his cultivation doesn't seem to have broken through the heavens, he can use the God-breaking divine power. This should be a sign of self-severing cultivation. Junior sister, because you haven't seen a self-severing cultivator, you don't know what a self-severing cultivator looks like. I once talked to a self-severing cultivator in my clan and observed him carefully. Normally, a self-severing cultivator will still have the aura of the chaotic starry sky around him. This aura is something that one can't get rid of after cultivating and living in the chaotic starry sky all year round. It's the same for you and me. Gong Ji Lu said indifferently. NIC finally reacted and said, Senior brother is right. The aura of the chaotic starry sky on that guy's body is so weak that it's almost negligible. He rarely comes into contact with the chaotic starry sky. Senior brother, why didn't you say so earlier? We could have just rushed in and taken down this ant. At this point, NIC rolled her eyes at Gong Ji Lu with some reproach. Gong Ji Lu's eyes became very serious and said, Junior sister, have you heard of a person who can have the God-breaking divine power before breaking through the heavens? NIC was stunned. Then she thought about it and shook her head seriously. This situation doesn't exist in the 100 domains, but we have encountered it. What does this mean? Speaking up to this point, Gong Ji Lu's eyes turned fiery as he continued. This kid must have a huge secret. Otherwise, he couldn't cultivate the God-breaking divine power in advance. This is our chance. NIC's beautiful eyes lit up, and she rebuked, Senior brother, since you've thought of so many things, why don't you do it? Why didn't we just kill him? So what if he has cultivated the God-breaking divine power? You and I can take him down if we work together. Then Lu's to say he was not to be underestimated. He Lu's Lu. He not want to kill to fight. We then. We Lu you and Lu him ya you Lu. Moreover, we can't immediately sever our cultivation because of this. That would be purely courting death. And I said, who is to die, it's use you Lu, and be to die. It to sin, to be it was to be in that state Azes insis. And I sighed dejectedly. She knew Gong Ji Lu was right. They really couldn't do anything to Zhuowen. Damn it, and I said unwillingly. But Junior sister, don't worry. Although we can't do anything, Golden Starry Sky can. I have inquired about Golden Starry Sky and learned that it is very powerful. There are many fifth blight powerhouses, and several heaven-breaking realm powerhouses have appeared. Once the powerhouses of Golden Starry Sky take action, this kid won't be able to escape. Gongji Lu said proudly. Senior brother, have you already contacted Golden Starry Sky? NIC's eyes lit up. Haha, yesterday I used the communicator curse Yin gave me, and I really got in touch with the person in charge of Golden Starry Sky. After hearing that I came from the 100 domains, the Golden Starry Sky's Divine Master personally contacted me. They are now providing the coordinates of Golden Starry Sky. When the coordinates are sent, we will go to Golden Starry Sky and help them perfect the teleportation formation as soon as possible to speed up their invasion of the Wanderer Starry Sky. At that time, we don't even need to do anything. Whether it is desireless or that ant just now, they will all be obediently sent to us. Gongji Lu put his hands behind his back, and a confident smile appeared on his face. NIC's beautiful eyes were bright as she looked at Gongji Lu with admiration and praised. As expected of senior brother, you are indeed astute. After Zhuowen left Heaven's Moat, his expression was not good. The conversation between Gongji Lu and NIC in the depths of Heaven's Moat was received by his monitoring formation. Therefore, he was now very clear about the content of their conversation. These two guys, Zhuowen's eyes were cold, and at the same time, he felt a sense of urgency. He knew that he had to improve his strength as soon as possible. He didn't know how strong Golden Starry Sky was, but from the conversation between Gongji Lu and NIC, he knew that Golden Starry Sky was much stronger than Wanderer Starry Sky. Once the army of Golden Starry Sky arrived, it would really be difficult to resist with the strength of Wanderer Starry Sky. No matter how strong he was, could he fight against an entire army of Starry Sky by himself? Unless he could break the heavens in a short time and control the power of the Starry Sky, then he would be able to turn the tide and save the living beings in Wanderer Starry Sky. Otherwise, if Wanderer Starry Sky was occupied, he would be forced to leave. Gongji Lu and NIC were eyeing him covetously outside. If he left, he would immediately encounter the two of them. I hope the primordial providence can really bring me benefits. Zhuowen took a deep breath and accelerated the speed of the space-time roulette. He knew that the only way for him to improve his strength quickly was to use the mysterious primordial providence. When Zhuowen arrived at the border of the monster territory, he found that Su Yuan and Dongwang Tai had been waiting there for a long time. Lord Zhuo, Su Yuan and Dongwang Tai looked at Zhuowen with complicated gazes. They clasped their hands and bowed respectfully. Their attitude was much more formal than before Zhuowen left. Why are the two of you so polite? You actually came here to welcome me in person. Zhuowen was speechless. Dongwang Tai and Su Yuan looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Dongwang Tai said with a wry smile, "Things are different now. Lord Zhuo's fame is now known throughout the Starry Sky. How dare we disrespect you?" Zhuowen was stunned and immediately understood that the two of them must have heard about his battle with Bing Hui in the Heaven Accessing Place. So their attitudes had changed so much. Zhuowen didn't care about this, and it was a good thing for him. After all, his current fame was enough to deter the two of them and make them not dare to act recklessly. By the way, how has Chun Shui been in Monster Saint Palace recently? Zhuowen asked casually. Chapter 36:28. What's wrong? Zhuowen noticed the strange expressions on their faces and couldn't help but frown as he asked. Dongwang Tai and Su Yuan both smiled and said, "The Saintess is doing well in the Demon's Saint Palace. Also, we have to congratulate Master Zhuo." "Oh, what's there to congratulate?" Zhuowen was confused. Dongwang Tai pondered for a moment and said, "The Saintess is pregnant." Zhuowen's body stiffened and trembled violently. His eyes shined brightly as he grabbed Dongwang Tai's shoulders and said, "What did you just say? Say it again." Dong Wang Tai's face turned pale. Zhuowen was too strong, and he almost knelt in front of Zhuowen. Sorry, I was too excited and couldn't control my strength. Zhuowen quickly took back his hands. His face was full of smiles. He was too excited. Although his cultivation was only at the early stage of the fourth blight, he wasn't an ordinary fourth blight expert. He cultivated the shattered divine force. His strength was far beyond the fourth blight and was comparable to a peak fifth blight expert. Dong Wang Tai was only at the early stage of the fifth blight, and the gap between him and Zhuowen was obvious. That was why he was so embarrassed in front of Zhuowen. It's okay, it's normal. Dong Wang Tai squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. On the other hand, Su Yuan's eyes were filled with dread. Next, Dong Wang Tai and Su Yuan brought Zhuowen to the Demon Saint Palace. However, Zhuowen couldn't wait any longer and directly used his divine ability to rush, leaving the two behind and arriving at the Demon Saint Palace as soon as possible. Master Zhua. At the entrance of the Saintess Hall, two maids respectfully bowed to Zhuowen. Zhuowen turned a deaf ear to him and rushed into the Saint Lady Temple. Where's your Saintess? Inside the hall, a beautiful woman stood in the middle of the hall and smiled at Zhuowen. Zhuowen knew this woman. She was Mu Qinshue's most shrewd maid, Hong Yu. Master Zhua, the Saintess has been waiting for you for a long time. She's in the palace right now. I'll bring you there. Hong Yu brought Zhuowen through a long corridor and walked towards the palace. Zhuowen's heart became nervous as he slowly followed Hong Yu. Creak. Hong Yu opened the palace door, bowed to Zhuowen, and stood by the door. Zhuowen entered the palace. At the end of the palace was a luxurious bed. At the end of the palace, there was a beautiful bed. On the bed, there was a beautiful figure lying quietly. Chun. Zhuowen. He. Zhuowen sat by the bed and gently stroked Mu Qinshue's hair. His consciousness had already discovered a slight bulge in Mu Qinshue's abdomen. He could even feel the weak pulse in Mu Qinshue's stomach. In that pulse, there was a strong life force. Zhuowen sat by the bed for a long time. Finally, Mu Qinshue's jade-like hand on the bed moved slightly. Then she slowly opened her eyes. When she saw Zhuowen, she was first stunned. Then her beautiful eyes filled with gentleness as she hugged Zhuowen. Chen Shueyu, what did you find out? Zhuowen hugged Mu Qinshu and said in a soft voice. Mu Qinshue's cheeks turned red as she said in a soft voice. Not long after you left, I began to have a reaction. Then I found the best doctor in Monster Saint Palace to take my pulse. Only then did I know that I had a pregnancy pulse. Saying this, Mu Qinshu rubbed her slightly swollen stomach. Her brows slightly knit as she said, Ever since I had a pregnancy, it has already been 6 years. The changes in my stomach are not very obvious. The doctor once said that the child in my stomach is a divine fetus. It is said that it needs 5 years of gestation and 10 years of pregnancy. It will take a total of 15 years to give birth to it. Zhuowen also rubbed Mu Qinshue's stomach. His divine sense had already checked Mu Qinshue's body before. The fetus in Mu Qinshue's body was indeed extraordinary. Before it was born, it already contained an extremely strong life force. He was very clear that at his level of cultivation, his bloodline would become extremely powerful. The starting point of his offspring would also be very high, and the way it was conceived would be different from mortals. Mortals could give birth to a baby after 10 months of pregnancy. But for an existence like Zhuowen, his bloodline was too strong. His offspring would also be extraordinary. 10 years of pregnancy was not a strange thing. For the next few days, Zhuowen accompanied Mu Qinshu in the Saintess Hall every day. It was rare for the young couple to quietly stay together. They were just like an ordinary couple, loving each other. But their days were soon interrupted by the arrival of Dong Wang Tai and Su Yuan. Dong Wang Tai and Su Yuan came to ask Zhuowen when to set off to search for the primordial providence. In the garden of the Saintess Hall, Zhuowen stood in the pavilion and quietly looked at the water left on the rockery. His brows were slightly furrowed, and he was lost in thought. Mu Qinshu slowly walked from the front yard and looked at Zhuowen, who was in a daze. She said softly, "Husband, you also said that the starry sky is about to encounter a great change. Now is a critical time. You must increase your strength in a short period of time. Only you have the ability to turn the tide in the face of such a great change. You don't have to worry too much about me. Just search for the primordial providence with Dongwang Tai and Su Yuan." Zhuowen turned around and looked at his gentle wife in front of him. His eyes were filled with tenderness as he said, "I know this, but I am just worried about you. After all, you are pregnant and need someone to take care of you the most at this time. If I am not by your side, I will never feel at ease." Mu Qinshu leaned on Zhuowen's chest and said softly, "Don't you have the great world? During this period of time, I will wait for you in the great world. As long as you have time, you can come to the great world to accompany me. This way, I won't delay you, and you won't have to worry about me." Zhuowen slapped his forehead and kissed Mu Qinshu fiercely. He said, "Look at my brain. Why didn't I think of this before?" The next day, Zhuowen took Mu Qinshu and Mu Qinshu's personal maid, Hong Yu, into the great world. And in the great world, he built a palace specially for Mu Qinshu to live in. When Xiao He heard that Mu Qinshu was pregnant, he mocked Zhuowen fiercely and made a fuss about being the godfather of the future child. Zhuowen was speechless and gave Xiao He a chestnut. Xiao He cried out in pain and finally became more obedient. However, Xiao He was still very happy. He was even happier than his biological father. Every day, he revolved around Mu Qinshu and boasted shamelessly that he wanted to fulfill his duty as a godfather. Zhuowen and Mu Qinshu both smiled and agreed to give Xiao He the status of godfather in the future. After making arrangements for Mu Qinshu, Zhuowen left the great world and came to the towering gate of the demon's Saint Palace. At this moment, in front of the gate, a huge flying divine tool was parked. Dongwang Tai and Su Yuan were standing on the deck. When the two saw Zhuowen arrive, they bowed respectfully. Chapter 36:29. Zhuowen stood on the deck and looked at the huge mountain range in front of him. His eyes were filled with emotion. The huge mountain range in front of him was the place where Pangu had fallen. It was here that he had received the complete inheritance of Pangu and the help of the sky-splitting axe. At this moment, 2/3 of the endless mountain range had already turned pitch black. It didn't look like a normal mountain range at all. In the darkness, there was an aura of destruction. Zhuowen knew that it was the aura of the chaos beasts. Under the mountain range, there were many chaos beasts sealed. Back then, Zhuowen still remembered that only 1/10 of the huge mountain range had been invaded by chaos beasts. Now 2/3 of the mountain range had been invaded. It was obvious that the power of the seal had weakened. The chaos beasts were about to break free. The destination of the route in the gold leaf is here. But the aura of this mountain range is a little strange. At that moment, Dongwang Tai held the gold leaf in his right hand. The gold leaf was surging with golden light. It turned into a golden light and pointed at the mountain range in front of him. However, Dongwang Tai looked very serious. He could feel that the mountain range in front of him was not simple, especially the 2/3 of the mountain range that was tainted by the strange dark energy. It gave him a strong sense of danger. This is the aura of the chaos beasts. Could it be that there are many chaos beasts sealed in this mountain range? Su Yuan frowned slightly and said with an ugly expression, "After all, he came from the 100 domains. Although his cultivation was average, he was much more knowledgeable than Dongwang Tai and Zhuowen. That was why he could tell that there were chaos beasts sealed in the mountain range." "Mr. Su Yuan, what are chaos beasts?" Dongwang Tai was confused. Su Yuan patiently explained everything about chaos beasts to Dongwang Tai. Only then did Dongwang Tai look enlightened. It turns out that when this part of the cosmos was first created, chaos beasts were basically living in the cosmos. If it weren't for Pangu splitting open the sky, wouldn't our starry sky have remained in chaos? Dongwang Tai said with a solemn look. "You can say that. Every evolution of the starry sky requires the sacrifice of an ancestor in order to succeed. Su Yuan sighed. The destination of the gold leaf seems to be the depths of this mountain range. Are we going to barge into the place where the chaos beast is sealed? Dong Wang Tai lowered his head and looked at the instructions on the gold leaf. Chaos beasts were not weak, and there were many of them in the mountains. Even if his cultivation level was at the 5th decay, there was a high chance that he would die if he ventured deep into the mountains. It's all right. If you wear this bracelet, the chaos beasts will not attack us. Su Yuan took out 3 bracelets and handed 2 of them to Zhuan and Dong Wang Tai. The bracelet was made of some kind of black jade. Its surface emitted a faint light, and when one touched the black jade, they could feel a warm feeling. This is... Dong Wang Tai looked at Su Yuan and asked, "This bracelet is made from the crystal core of a chaos beast. It contains the aura of a chaos beast. Although chaos beasts have eyes and ears, they do not have sight or hearing. They rely entirely on their auras to differentiate between their own kind and the other kind. With this bracelet made from the crystal core, we will be covered by the aura of the chaos beast. When that happens, the chaos beast will treat us as its own kind." Su Yuan smiled and said. Zhuan looked at the bracelet in his hand carefully. He could feel the aura of a chaos beast from it. Wearing such a bracelet, he could indeed fool his way through the chaos beasts. "Then let's enter the mountains now." Su Yuan put on the bracelet and said eagerly. "Wait!" Zhuan stopped Su Yuan. Seeing the confusion on Su Yuan and Dong Wang Tai's faces, Zhuan said in a low voice, "I'm afraid the seal in this mountain range will not last for long. We don't know how long it will take for us to search for the original Qi providence. If the chaos beasts break out of the seal during this time, it will be a great disaster for the universe. So before we enter, I will set up a huge seal in this mountain range, just in case." Su Yuan frowned and said, "Lord Zhua, I know you know some formations, but chaos beasts are not ordinary. If you want to stop them, you will need at least a half-step Heavenbreaker seal." Su Yuan and Dong Wang Tai had heard that Zhuan's formation skills were not bad, but they did not think that Zhuan's formation skills were the half-step Heavenbreaker level. They also did not think that Zhuan's formation skills were already at the first stage of the Heavenbreaker level. So, the 2 of them thought that Zhuan setting up a formation here was purely a waste of time. "It's better than nothing." Zhuan's expression was cold. He did not care about Su Yuan and Dong Huang Tai's confusion. He landed outside the mountain range, took out the formation flags, and set up the formation seriously. Su Yuan and Dong Wang Tai had no choice but to land near Zhuan. Neither of them knew anything about formations, so they could not understand what kind of formation Zhuan was setting up. After watching for a while, the 2 of them lost interest. They each found a quiet place and sat down cross-legged to meditate. Zhuan spent a total of 3 months in the periphery of the mountain range before he finally finished setting up the seal formation properly. This seal was the combination of Zhuan's best formation skills. Its level had already reached the first stage of the Heavenbreaker level. At the same time, Zhuan also added all kinds of powerful killing formations to the seal. If the Chaos Beasts really broke free, this formation would be enough to stop them. Then, with all kinds of killing formations, they would slowly exterminate the Chaos Beasts. After setting up the formation, Zhuan sent a message to Su Yuan and Dong Wang Tai. Not long after, the 2 of them came from 2 different directions. Dong Wang Tai used the golden leaf to guide the way. Zhuan said calmly. Dong Wang Tai and Su Yuan looked excited. Dong Wang Tai took out the golden leaf. Another golden ray of light shot out of the golden leaf, heading deep into the mountain range. The 3 of them followed the golden ray of light and went deep into the mountain range. In the mountain range, Zhuan once again felt that empty feeling. It was as if his 5 senses were slipping away. However, just as this feeling surged in his heart, the bracelet in his hand surged out black fog and covered his entire body. Then, Zhuan no longer felt that empty feeling. His five senses also returned to normal. Young Master Su Yuan, your bracelet is really useful, Dong Wang Tai said happily. We have the aura of chaos beasts on us. We can enter directly. Without waiting for Zhuowen and Dong Wang Tai, Su Yuan dashed into the door of the primal chaos beasts. That pitch-black door was like an illusion. Just like that, Su Yuan disappeared before the door. Oof. Zhuowen coldly snorted. This Su garden left in such a hurry that it made Zhuowen feel strange. He immediately rushed in. Bang! However, just as Zhuowen was about to enter the door, the bracelet in his hand suddenly broke, and he was blocked outside the door. Zhuowen took a few steps back, and his eyes narrowed. Master Zhuo, my bracelet broke too? What's going on? Dong Wang Tai hurried to Zhuowen's side, holding the broken bracelet in his hand. We've been set up. Zhuowen's eyes flashed coldly. He knew that Su Yuan had set them up. Zhuowen took out Su Yuan's spiritual imprint and realized that it had disappeared. His connection to Su Yuan had also completely disappeared. He didn't think that Su Yuan had died. She must have used some method to transfer her spiritual imprint. Su Yuan alone wouldn't be able to do this. The only person who could do this was the young master behind Su Yuan. Creak. At the same time, the pitch-black door in front of them started to open slowly. Terrifying cries and howls could be heard from within. Swoosh! Suddenly, from a small gap in the door, a black shadow shot out like a bolt of black lightning and charged toward Zhuowen. This black shadow opened its ferocious mouth and mercilessly bit Zhuowen's neck. Zhuowen sent out a slap, knocking the shadow to the ground. Only then did he see the true face of this black shadow. It was a chaos beast. Zhuowen didn't hesitate to stomp the chaos beast into dust. However, he did not relax because of this. This was because he could see through the gap of the door that behind the door, a terrifying army of chaotic beasts was squeezing out of the door and rushing toward Zhuowen. All the chaos beasts' eyes were filled with murderous intent. So many chaos beasts. Dong Wang Tai's expression changed. Although most of these chaos beasts were around the first decay, and some were only Master Tong Tian, there were too many. Just the number of chaos beasts behind the door was endless. There were at least tens of thousands of them. And this was only the tip of the iceberg. Deep within the pitch-black door, there were definitely more chaos beasts. With so many chaos beasts, even if he was a 5th decay elite, he wouldn't be able to kill them all. In the end, he would be killed by these chaos beasts. Brother Dong Wang, you should leave this place first. Zhuowen slapped another chaos beast to death and said to Dong Wang Tai without looking back. Dong Wang Tai's eyes flashed, but he looked determined. I'm already here. How can I back off? As the saying goes, wealth comes from danger. With such a great opportunity in front of me, I won't let it go so easily. Then you might die. At that time, you'll have nothing left. Zhuowen said coldly. Master Zhuo, what about you? Dong Wang Tai hesitated. I'm stronger than you. Moreover, it's much stronger, but I can't guarantee your life. Zhuowen said indifferently. Dong Wang Tai's face turned pale. He knew that Zhuowen's words were very obvious. Even if he went in with Zhuowen, Zhuowen wouldn't care about his life or death, let alone protect him. But don't worry. When you get out, give me the gold leaf. I promise that if I get primordial luck, I will leave a small part of it for you. I will give you a great opportunity, Zhuowen said lightly. Dong Wang Tai's eyes lit up. He cupped his hands and thanked Zhuowen before leaving. Zhuowen followed closely behind Dong Wang Tai. When Dong Wang Tai left using the gold leaf, Zhuowen waved his right hand and kept the gold leaf. The wall returned to its original state. Rumble. At this moment, the pitch-black door at the end of the tunnel was completely opened, and a series of ear-piercing cries and howls whistled out like a gale. The entire passageway started to tremble. Countless chaos beasts were like a black flood as they rushed towards Jiang Yi. Zhuowen stood quietly by the wall, looking at the chaos beasts rushing towards him. His body was glowing with a purple light like a purple sun. Instantly, the chaos beasts completely surrounded Zhuowen. The chaos beasts fought to tear Zhuowen apart, trying to tear Zhuowen into pieces. Bang! Chapter 36-31. In an instant, Zhuowen rushed through the door, and all the beasts of chaos in the passage were defeated by Zhuowen. Damn it, there are so many beasts of chaos. When Zhuowen rushed through the door, his expression became even uglier. This was because he saw even more chaos beasts than he had seen in the passageway. These beasts of chaos did not know what death was. They only knew how to kill. When they saw Zhuowen, they rushed over crazily. The purple aura around Zhuowen continued to rise, manifesting countless purple blades. All the chaos beasts that pounced on him were basically cut into pieces by the purple blades formed by the purple aura. Since advancing to the fourth decay, Zhuowen found that the amount of broken divine power in his body had changed, and his recovery ability was very strong. Especially in this sealed land, he could feel that the chaotic energy here was more vigorous than the chaotic starry sky in the heaven-accessing secret land. The speed at which he consumed broken divine power was much slower than the speed at which he recovered. In the process of recovery, the excess chaotic energy was constantly absorbed and refined by him, turning into more powerful broken divine power. What a good place! I'm afraid this is a border of the wandering starry sky. There must be something good here to have such a strong, chaotic energy. Zhuowen roared, and the power of the primordial technique surged around him. He walked around the sealed land leisurely. The beasts of chaos that were constantly sweeping in from all directions were nothing to him. Then, he began to size up the sealed land. He noticed that the sealed land was a space similar to the starry sky, but it was dark inside, and there was no light from the stars. In addition to the seemingly endless beasts of chaos, there were piles of black stones suspended in the air. These black stones were very hard, and even the sharp teeth of the beasts of chaos could not break them. Zhuowen stopped on a rather large piece of black rock, but his divine sense was unscrupulously unleashed. He was looking for Su Yuan. She dared to trick him. If he found her, Zhuowen would not let her go easily. However, what made Zhuowen frown was that he did not find Su Yuan within the range of his divine sense. Zhuowen began to go deeper and deeper. 3 days later, he discovered that there was a circular abyss in the center of the sealed land. Inside the abyss, an extremely dense, chaotic energy was erupting. He knew that this place should be the origin of the chaotic energy in the sealed land. In the depths of the abyss, he saw a huge black millstone. The millstone spun slowly, and with every revolution, it spewed out a large amount of chaotic energy. There was a figure standing on the millstone. He turned his head around and glanced at Zhuowen as a strange smile appeared on his face. Su Yuan. Zhuowen's gaze was cold. He exterminated the surrounding chaos beasts and charged into the deep abyss. Very quickly, Zhuowen broke through the encirclement of the chaos beasts and landed on the millstone. What a powerful pressure! Standing on the millstone, Zhuowen immediately felt a terrifying force acting on his entire body, causing him to slow down. Zhuowen's face turned gloomy. With such a powerful pressure, it would not be easy for him to leave the millstone and walk in the air. He also noticed that the chaos beasts that were chasing after him did not dare to get close to the millstone. They circled a few thousand meters above it. Zhuowen, it seems that I have underestimated you. Originally, I thought that the chaos beasts could stop you for a while, but I did not expect you to catch up so quickly. Su Yuan stood where she was and looked at Zhuowen calmly. She was not as frightened as Zhuowen had expected. Instead, she wore a strange smile. You are not Su Yuan? Who are you? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and stared at Su Yuan, who had suddenly become unfamiliar. He could feel that Su Yuan's aura was completely different. It was as if she was a different person. Zhuowen remembered that the spiritual imprint that Su Yuan had left on him had lost its effect. He thought for a while and said seriously, Are you the person behind him? Did you kill Su Yuan? Ha! You're very smart. You actually thought of me so quickly. However, you were the one who killed Su Yuan. If his spiritual imprint had not been controlled by you, I would not have erased his spiritual imprint and controlled him with a trace of my spiritual imprint. Su Yuan laughed sinisterly. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and looked at Su Yuan cautiously. He sized up the millstone beneath his feet and said, as if he understood something, "This millstone is the primeval providence that you were talking about?" He felt a unique energy from the millstone. This energy was very unfamiliar to him, but it was very powerful. It was much more powerful than he had imagined. You guessed right. This millstone is the model of the primeval providence of your starry sky. It is the lifeline of your starry sky. However, this thing is already mine. If you don't resist, I will not kill you. Instead, I will reward you with some primeval providence. Su Yuan said indifferently. What arrogance! The Su Yuan you control is only at the peak of the third blight. Can you stop me? Besides, even if you come in person, you have to weigh your own weight. Zhuowen sneered. Su Yuan laughed and said sarcastically, Zhuowen, do you think that you are invincible in this starry sky just because you defeated Bing Hui? Let me tell you the truth. As long as you haven't broken through the heavens, you will always be an ant in my eyes. If Bing Hui had not suppressed his cultivation, it would have been as easy for him to crush you as an ant. And it will only be easier for me to crush you than for Bing Hui. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a cold purple light. Suddenly, a purple saber appeared behind Su Yuan as if it had teleported and stabbed into his back. Puchi! The purple saber pierced through Su Yuan's back and blood gushed out like a fountain. Su Yuan was calm. He stood in place and ignored the blood gushing out of his chest. Zhuowen, Su Yuan is already dead. Su Yuan is nothing more than a walking corpse now. Even if you cut him into pieces, I will not lose anything. Su Yuan laughed maniacally. Beneath his feet, a spirit design appeared. Strange symbols were densely packed within the formation. These symbols formed a ring shape that rapidly rotated. Under the effect of the formation, the black millstone began to be gradually eaten away. It was as if it had disappeared into thin air, starting from the corner where Su Yuan was. I will kindly accept the primeval providence. Zhuowen, if fate wills it, we will meet again in the future. However, I feel that we will never meet again. The primeval providence of your starry sky has been taken away. Your starry sky's providence is exhausted and your lifespan is running out. You will enter the end of the world ahead of time, and you have also lost the hope of breaking through the heavens in this starry sky. Moreover, the primordial chaos paths that lead to the 100 domains of the outer realms are formed by the primeval providence. You will not have the chance to enter the 100 domains of the outer realms to continue growing. Your fate is already sealed. There is no hope. Also, after saying so much, I still haven't introduced myself. My name is Luke. Although we may not have the chance to meet again, you can remember my name. Chapter 36-32. At that moment, the array was spinning continuously. In just a short period of time, it had already swallowed 1/10 of the millstone. Zhuowen immediately threw out array flags, intending to use his array skills to forcefully break the array. Bang, bang, bang. However, to Zhuowen's horror, the moment his array flags came into contact with the array, they all shattered and exploded. What a terrifying array! Zhuowen's expression was ugly. He knew that the array's level had already exceeded his array skills. He could not break it at all. Brute force defeats 10. I will destroy you directly. Zhuowen's gaze was fierce as he pointed his right sword finger at the void. In the void behind him, a long purple river surged out like a dragon and crashed into the array. Hongmeng, life breaker. Whoosh! To Zhuowen's horror, the moment the purple river landed on the array, it was also shattered into pieces. Zhuowen groaned and could not help but take a few steps back. At that moment, the array had already swallowed 1/5 of the millstone. The millstone, which was originally spinning continuously, slowed down due to the devouring of the formation. A terrifying vibration came from the huge millstone. Waves of energy surged out, and the entire abyss was thrown into chaos by the terrifying energy ripples. Many of the primal chaos beasts near the deep abyss could not dodge in time. They were hit by the energy shock waves that spread out. They screamed in pain and exploded into dust. Zhuowen barely stabilized his body. His gaze became more and more serious. He knew that he had to stop the array. If all the primordial providence was swallowed, the universe would become a stranger. 9 tribulations sword array, come out. Zhuowen took a deep breath. He immediately summoned the 9 tribulations sword array from the great world. 9 divine swords exuded blazing divine light as they rushed out. They intertwined in midair, exuding a sharp and terrifying aura. Zhuowen's face was extremely pale. Although he had just broken through to the 4th blight and his strength had transformed again, controlling the 9 tribulations sword array in one go was still a bit difficult. The backlash was not small. However, he could not care so much. He had to stop the array. Otherwise, the entire universe would be finished. Zhuowen bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence, which landed on the 9 tribulations sword array. The 9 tribulations sword array, which was originally very powerful, exploded with an even more terrifying light. Waves of terrifying sword light formed a terrifying storm that swept out. In addition, a golden light surged between Zhuowen's brows. Soul-type sword intents flew out from the depths of his brows. There were a total of 10 of them, which floated around his body. After Zhuowen's breakthrough to the heaven-breaking 2nd blight, the power of soul-type sword intent was far more terrifying than before. If that were to the great of ice, being to the great of ice to the ice. Zhuowen had condensed these 10 soul sword intents during this period of time. His soul sword intents was becoming more and more powerful, enough to withstand the power of these 10 soul sword intents. That's not enough. Viciousness appeared in Zhuowen's eyes, and he forcefully condensed soul-type sword intent again. Another soul-type sword intent flew out from between his brows, and Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire face was drained of color. However, he did not stop. He began to desperately condense soul-type sword intent again. 1, 2, all the way until 5, he finally stopped. His consciousness started to blur, and he had a splitting headache. Holding his head with both hands, he forcefully controlled the 9 tribulations sword array to attack the array. At the same time, the 16 soul-type sword intents floating around him fell on the millstone like a rain of swords. Instantly, sword chi soared into the sky, and the surrounding abyss actually started to collapse under the influence of such terrifying sword chi. It was too terrifying. Even this abyss that had existed since ancient times could not withstand such terrifying sword chi. Bang! Suddenly, the speed of the array's devouring suddenly slowed down, and then it directly stopped. The array spun quickly, mobilizing extremely terrifying energy, and began to resist the soul-type sword intent and the 9 tribulations sword array's attacks. The ripples from the collision between the two were extremely terrifying. Zhuowen had no choice but to take out the golden coffin. He hid in the coffin to avoid the powerful energy ripples from the explosion. Inside the abyss, an unprecedented explosion also erupted. This explosion was too terrifying. When the range spread out, not only the abyss, but the area of several million kilometers around the abyss was completely included. And all the chaos beasts in this area were not spared, dying without a complete corpse. Gotcha! Under such a terrifying amount of energy, the formation came to a complete stop, and then it crumbled. When the energy of the explosion completely subsided, a golden coffin slowly approached the center of the abyss and landed on the broken millstone. Only 2/3 of the millstone was left. The remaining 1/3 had already been transferred away by the array. The coffin opened, and Zhuowen struggled to crawl out from inside, falling to the ground with a plop. Zhuowen smiled bitterly. This could be considered the most serious injury he'd suffered since he'd reached half a step into the heaven-breaking tier. I really didn't expect that young master behind Su Yuan to actually have such a powerful array. This person's strength is probably much stronger than that senior Gong, Kiliu, and senior sister. Zhuowen struggled to prop himself up. After taking a healing divine pill, he recuperated for 15 minutes. He threw out array flags one after another, setting up a defensive array around himself. He was too weak now. If the Chaos Beast attacked him now, it would really be bad. Fortunately, the explosion just now covered a huge area. The Chaos Beasts within several million kilometers were almost all wiped out. It would probably take some time for the Chaos Beasts further away to reach here. This also gave Zhuowen enough time to set up the array. After setting up the half-step breaking heaven tier defensive array, Zhuowen sat down on Millstone. He continuously absorbed the pure chaos energy spewing out of the Millstone. At the same time, he swallowed healing divine pills and circulated the primordial technique, spreading the medicinal power throughout his body to heal his injuries. This time, not only is my physical body seriously injured, but my soul is even more so. While Zhuowen was healing his physical injuries, he had originally planned to use his divine sense to check the condition of his body. However, he discovered that the moment he used his divine sense, he immediately grimaced in pain, as if his head was about to explode. Zhuowen smiled bitterly. The injuries of his physical body were secondary. It wouldn't take long for him to be completely healed. As for his soul, it was much more troublesome. Although his soul was extraordinary, it was also abnormally difficult to recover after being injured. Destroy and rebuild. Just as Zhuowen was vexed, he suddenly remembered this sentence recorded on the third level of the Green Lotus visualization diagram. When he had cultivated the Green Lotus visualization diagram, with his comprehension ability, he had broken through 2 levels in a short time, and his soul had undergone a transformation. However, when he cultivated the 3rd level, he was stuck on the sentence destroy and rebuild. According to the introduction of the 3rd level of the Green Lotus visualization diagram, it was said that before reaching the 3rd level, one's entire soul had to be destroyed. Only then could one successfully enter the 3rd level of the Green Lotus visualization diagram. At that time, how could Zhuowen have used this method of destroying his soul to cultivate the 3rd level of the Green Lotus visualization diagram? The risk was too great. Chapter 36-33. In the chaotic starry sky outside the western boundary of the galaxy, there was a formation flickering in a hidden meteorite. There was a handsome young man standing next to the formation. He had his hands behind his back as he silently looked at the corner of the millstone that had appeared in the formation. The corners of his mouth curled up. I really didn't expect the plan to go so smoothly. The primeval providence of the galaxy has been obtained so easily. With the support of this primeval providence, my cultivation will rise to another level. At least in the heaven-breaking realm, I'm afraid there won't be too many shackles. Luke's face was full of pride as he muttered to himself. Boom! Suddenly, a shocking sound came from the formation, as if some kind of big explosion. And the explosion continued endlessly. Then, dense cracks appeared on the surface of the formation before it finally collapsed in front of Luke's eyes. Luke stared blankly at the broken formation, and he was about to go crazy. The formation he had brought was a top-notch teleportation formation among the 2nd stage heaven-breaking realm. Even a heaven-breaking 2nd transformation spirit transformation elite wouldn't be able to destroy such a formation in a short time. But now, the formation had collapsed in front of him. Bang! 1/3 of the millstone's corner smashed on the ground, and the dull sound woke Luke up. Luke's expression was complicated. He looked deeply at the broken formation and smiled. I really didn't expect such a heaven-defying creature to exist in the starry sky of the lower realm. This Zhuowen is really interesting. Although Luke's expression was still unwilling, he didn't plan to enter the galaxy himself and fight for the remaining two-thirds of the primeval providence in Zhuowen's hands. He was very clearly aware that he had no chance of winning against Zhuo in the starry sky, unless Zhuo left the starry sky and fought him in the chaotic starry sky. Zhuo was obviously not a fool and naturally wouldn't make such a stupid decision. Forget it. 1/3 of the primeval providence is enough for me. It's time to return to the Hushi realm. Luke shook his head, took out a talisman, and crushed it. His entire body turned into countless specks of light and disappeared among the meteorites. He had more important things to do. This time, he had been delayed in the galaxy for too long. The third level of the Green Lotus visualization diagram is really effective. Zhuo sat cross-legged on the millstone. When he began to visualize the Green Lotus with his shattered soul, he discovered that his soul was easily mobilized and condensed into green lotuses. This was especially true for those divine souls that had been torn apart. Their speed of condensing green lotuses was even faster. The third level of the Green Lotus visualization diagram was called 10,000 Green Lotuses Bloom Everywhere. He started to activate the primordial technique and easily absorb the surging energy in the millstone into his body. Moreover, to his pleasant surprise, this energy was very pure. He only needed to absorb it slightly, and he did not even need to refine it. After circulating in his meridians, it transformed into shattered divine power and fused into his body very well. Apart from that, he faintly sensed that his aura of destiny seemed to have undergone a slight change after absorbing this energy. Although this change was very small, Zhuo still noticed it. After all, he had once cultivated the secret of heavenly divination, and he also dabbled in this kind of profound level of destiny. Thus, he could acutely sense any change in his destiny. Moreover, he also knew that this change in destiny was not a disadvantage to him, but a benefit. Thinking of this, Zhuo summoned Xiao He and Mu Qinxue from the outside world. This primitive destiny was really too amazing, and he naturally planned to share it with Xiao He and Mu Qinxue. Damn, this is really good stuff. With this primeval fate, we'll be in control of the strongest fate in this part of the starry sky. There are a lot of benefits. After listening to Zhuowen's introduction, Xiao Hei's eyes lit up. Without waiting for Zhuowen to continue, she rushed to the other side of the millstone and wildly absorbed the energy in the millstone. Chen Shui, with this primitive destiny, our children's potential will surpass ours, and they will definitely become famous figures in the future, Zhuowen said with a smile. Mu Qinxue was as gentle as water, and she also understood Zhuowen's feelings for her. Next, the three of them sat on the millstone and began to absorb the primitive destiny. Zhuowen's absorption speed was the fastest among the three of them, and his movements were also the largest. Mu Qinxue and Xiao He were both alarmed by the movements of Zhuowen's cultivation. Time gradually passed, and Zhuowen's cultivation gradually increased as he continued to absorb the primitive destiny. In half a year, he advanced to the mid-4th blight. In 2 years, he advanced to the late 4th blight. After an hour, Zhuowen finally returned to the pitch-black door. There were no more chaos beasts here. Most of the chaos beasts in the sealed land had been sucked in by the strange purple vortex and became its nutrients. The moment Zhuowen stepped out of the golden coffin, he immediately felt a terrifying force acting on his body. It was as if a hand was grabbing his body and pulling him behind it. Damn it! Zhuowen's expression changed drastically. The primordial technique in his body circulated at high speed and barely managed to resist the pulling force. He struggled to walk toward the path behind the door. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was staggering. After just 10 steps, he was already panting. The broken divine power in his body was being consumed at a terrifying rate. Even he was terrified. Juon had no choice but to take out the chaos gem.